Okay, so thank you for coming on with us, Layton. I really do appreciate it. And so I guess we're gonna go ahead and get started. Uh, so I actually right before you got on, I did a Big Five personality test again to see if kind of I was in the same place. So, because I know that's where we had left off last time, actually.
Yeah, the big five.
I don't. I don't remember if you stated like kind of like where you were on that scale.
I don't remember if I did either.
I'm curious about yourself. Like I've been playing with them since I knew we were going to talk about this sort of thing.
Well, like depending on my mood, depending on how the day's going, the one that will switch around is the extroversion percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So like some days I'm not feeling it, right? My social battery is about that big.
Yeah, you tend to run out quick.
Yeah, and the test will be like, you're the most introverted person on the planet.
Oh, really?
But then other days, I'm like normal me and I'm not like tired. So if I'm like tired and exhausted, I don't want to talk to people. But if I'm not tired and exhausted, then it's like, yeah, you're pretty extroverted. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm glad I got you on then. So my extroversion is actually, and I think this is pretty normal for me. It's at 83% is what it's telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So the scale I'm using, I used truity.com. And it only goes up to 100. So it's
right.
Other than that, I think my openness is at a 98%. That's my highest. That's my highest.
That's also mine. My openness is like right up there, 98, 99. It's like right up there.
I feel you. Well, I think that's why I get along with people like you so well. Like for people who can put like a thought outside of like say their personal feelings about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there are things that I can hear that I don't necessarily believe, if that makes sense. And I can my thing is to always examine whether it's, something that can be tested, tried, true or not. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I love abstract thought.
You had me take the MBTI test the other day, right?
Yeah,
I hate stereotypes, right? But there is one stereotype of my MBTI personality type that I fall into. Oh, yeah. And I think it's due to my excess like openness whenever it comes to Big Five is I will take a concept I do not believe in at all, but just for the sake of argument, I'll come up with a supporting factors. Like I'll play devil's advocate really hard.
Yeah, well, so here's a thought that actually, I wish more people and you've been here, so I feel like every time I'm like talking to you, when I talk about the South, I'm talking trash. I love the South. Like, no, don't misunderstand. But okay, so what you're saying right there, what people call that is a steel man argument. You've probably heard that term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and for those of you who don't know what a steel man argument is where, okay, say you have somebody on like a disagreeing side of your point of view. So like I use like abortion. So we probably disagree on abortion, I think. But I would be like what most people would be considered pro-life. Well, if I were to try to build up the the pro-choice arguments and make them as good as possible, so that way it would be harder for me as a pro-life person to tear them down. That would be a steel man argument. I don't think a lot of people are. I'm not sure that I'm saying that they're not capable of doing that. I don't think most people have disciplined their mind to think in that sense.
Well, in order to create a steel man argument or like a more foolproof argument, you have to be able to put your mindset. Hold on, I'm going to fix the camera a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. You have to put your mindset in like thinking what the other person will think.
Yes.
Thinking from that point of view. So like
it's like did you ever play Assassin's Creed?
Oh, dude, I've played every that was about to be a lie. No, the only one I haven't played is the Egyptian one. I forget what it's called. That's the only one I haven't played. I've played all the rest of them.
I think, is that Black Flag? No, that's not Black Flag. No. But that's beside the point. The reason I brought up Assassin's Creed was, okay, so in Assassin's Creed, they have this whole thing where you get thrown into the Animus, which is like, you know, your ancestors past, right? Mm-hmm. And you could be a Templar, or you could be, you know, whatever they call themselves. I can't remember. So that's what I try to do. You know what I'm saying? Is I try to throw myself into their argument to see how everything I'm thinking could be morally abhorrent to them, if that makes sense, or whatever the argument may be.
So, this is probably one of my traits that people find annoying, but
it just depends on who you're with, man.
Before I started college, right, and I was just working. I didn't have a lot of mental stimulation going on because I wasn't doing like academics.
Yeah.
So for fun, for mental stimulation, I would, if I saw a random argument on Facebook, there I was. And I just threw myself into the middle of it. It could have been the most heated debate ever.
Yeah.
And like, even if I agreed with them and I was like, no, you're wrong. And then, you know, that would get
just to get the rise.
Because like I wanted that like mental stimulation, and I think you're an awful human being.
Just love the chaos.
And I think debating itself is really like the best.
It can be fun.
Well, other than like being fun, I also think it's like one of the best battlegrounds whenever it comes to like ideas. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have an idea versus another idea to see which one is more logical or like morally superior, debate it. I mean, debate it respectfully. Don't throw personal attacks, but like on a respective debate is like, I love it. I think it's the perfect battleground for ideas. And now a lot of people disagree with me, but I think if your thought process can't hold up in a debate, then it's not worth thinking.
Well, like I said, to me, it literally depends on the people you're with. You know, because you can have people who are not very disciplined in their thinking, and not saying that I am necessarily, but when they're not, they have a very hard time. And this is what I run into a lot here. Like, so you bring up something, say, why certain tenets of atheism can be interesting or something like that, and they just look at you like you're retarded because they don't get the concept. You know what I'm saying? They're not used to thinking outside the box. And if you're trying to work with people like that, it's very difficult to get them to see the point of another side. Usually I'll actually be on their side. I'm from the South. You know what I'm saying? Usually I carry a lot of those tenets of what relatively most people believe over here. But I always try to find people who are different, just because, like, how are you ever going to know that you're wrong?
Right.
If no one ever gives your ideas and their ideas the time of day. That's how I've always felt.
Well, see, it's funny you bring up the theistic versus atheistic argument. My philosophy class, actually, we had to dissect and tear apart the question that have questioned people, and it's actually a famous question that atheists use against theists, and it's why does evil exist?
Right, that's like the oldest in the book.
It is.
I've been going over that question since I was 12.
You know, and most theists agree that, you know, they believe that their God is omnipotent, omnibenevolent, you know, all knowing, all good, omniscient, everywhere. He knows everything. He's everywhere, and he's all powerful. And then atheists turn around and be like, well, if he is all of those, then why does evil exist? And of course, you have your different. My wife was dashing from the kitchen to the living room.
She's making that great escape over there.
Yeah, I am Speed. But atheists would turn around and be like, you know, why does evil exist? Because if, you know, your God is all these things, then there should be no reason for evil to exist. And of course, there are different theodicies, that try to explain. You know, one of the big ones is the free will argument.
Yeah, that would probably have been the first. I would immediately have went to the free will argument.
Yeah, well, like in learning about that, we had to do what's called a disposition. Basically, it's like you make a statement so and so long, big enough for the other students to, you know, tear down and read it and really analyze what you're trying to say. And so the teacher made us examine that question, like, why does evil exist, and create our own theodicy. And I told him, like, you know, there are multiple of them that could make sense to me, but if I were to immediately just be like, you know, if I had to settle on a theodicy, it would be the free will argument.
Are you trying to say theology, right?
No, theodicy.
Okay, I feel like
it's a THEODICY.
So when you say that, you mean like just a form of thinking theologically?
It is a here. I just so that I don't misquote it.
Yeah, because I feel like I should know this.
It is the vindication of divine goodness and providence in the view of the existence of evil. So
okay, so more or less the justification.
Yeah, it's a.
I gotcha.
So whenever atheists give the why does evil exist, the response from a theist
would be a theodicy.
It is a theodicy.
I gotcha.
Got you.
I'm surprised that actually, all the years I've went through apologetics and things like that, never heard anyone use that phrase, but that makes good sense. Yeah,
and but yeah, we had to come up with our own. It was actually very interesting because there's people in that philosophy class with very, very different views.
Yeah,
and we're also, in order to get the grade, we have to respond to people, to their stuff, and to if they comment on ours. Like, we have to at least respond to 2 other people.
Did you ever get very heated? Like,
no, actually, the instructor said, like, it will be respectful. Like, he will he will hit the hammer if somebody starts throwing out, you know, disrespectful, like.
Don't you wish we had that? Like, just like, you can't really do that on the internet, but don't you wish in a way you had? It's not like without it being the authoritarian fact checkers, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
but we'll see. I actually, we had it one time where, I was on a video with a buddy. He started doing Facebook Live, and he was asking this dude that was making like big like waves in the stuff he was posting, and like all these people, because we were all mutual friends, and it was, you know, a couple hundred people, and like he posted something and it blew up, like a couple hundred comments, like and you know, between 300 to 400 people. And so my buddy did a Facebook Live with him and was like, you know, why do you think the way you think? And of course, I watched that one, and I was like commenting like questions. Well, then, because I was, you know, asking this guy questions, and whenever he would say stuff, I would catch him on his fallacies. And I would catch him on like where he would say one thing, then 5 minutes later say something that directly contradicts it.
Directly opposes.
And so I kept calling him on it. And so then my buddy was like, hey, this weekend, Facebook Live with me. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. So I did it, and I ended up, he asked me a lot about like libertarianism.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I can imagine.
You know,
I can imagine it going that direction with you.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, like, I say libertarianism, and like if they're like, if they don't really like study politics or read into politics, and they are a conservative or more conservative leaning, I say libertarian, and they automatically say, oh, a liberal. And I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah, that's so ignorant of the subject.
But then, like, if I talk to someone who's more liberal, I said libertarian, they're like, oh, so the alt-right. And I'm like,
oh, Jesus.
No, please stop. Like
they think you're like some white supremacist.
Yeah. And I'm like, please stop.
Pillowcase wearing person. No.
Well, then I'm telling them like, yeah, like, you know, I support a lot of like social change, police reform, like making certain drugs legal, and they're like, what? I thought you were alt-right. And I'm like, no, libertarians are not alt-right. Like, please just take 2 seconds.
Yeah, funny story is actually, I think it wasn't long after really getting to know you on Facebook that I finally just said, screw it. I'm so far over. Not like there's a lot of people. I have a lot more respect for the Republican Party than I would say the Democrat Party politically right now. But I eventually just kind of like, after knowing you for a little while, I'm like, you know what, it's fine. I'm done. I'll switch. It was a long time coming anyway. That makes sense, because I understood the philosophy more or less, and that is, long story short, do unto others as you'd have done unto you. And
basically,
I mean, I prefer libertarianism. Like I said, that's right. We were talking about the authoritarian debate. I actually I had that pulled up. But here's what you wrote, because I've got, let's see here. It says, "Hello, Facebook philosophers, feral and tame." That's fair enough. Come to ponder this with me. I love what you said, because it was hilarious. It said, what does authoritarian people create? Personally, I think they breed two things: being another authoritarian or someone who violently craves freedom. I will say that's not wrong.
So in context for the question, so an authoritarian person, and the easiest example are parents, right? If you have an extremely authoritarian parent, or parents, like plural, if both the mother and the father put a very rigid authoritarian rule over their children, right? And I studied this when going through psychology, because they talk about parental and child psychology and stuff like that. It will, and I mean, even before taking a psychology class, you see it.
No, it definitely does. When I was a kid, my mom actually did not want us to play Pokemon. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. There was a lot of parents like that.
Yeah.
So
it's a normal occurrence where we're from. It's a very normal
where we're from, it's Harry Potter is out of hell. Which, if they actually read it, it actually carries. Not that I've read the books, I've just seen the movies. But even if you just see the movies, you know better. Like, it actually carries a lot of the principles of self-sacrifice and things like that. And magic is really, that's what I don't get with people. It's just a term. Like, grow up. You know what I'm saying? But no, when I was younger, that was the big deal to my mother. And so, exactly what we wanted to do as children. Like, we would sneak Pokemon games in the house and find someone to buy them for us, like it was crack or something.
Mine was Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, Yu-Gi-Oh is definitely not happening. If Pikachu wasn't allowed Yu-Gi-Oh in his...
It was... like it with the dark wizard and stuff and the dragons,
the black magician.
Yeah, the black magician. Oh man.
Yeah.
It was a rough time, but yeah, I just think I think on a normal basis, authoritarian people, whether it be parents or whether it be in a workplace, if an authoritarian person is in charge, they're either going to create children or workers under them that violently crave freedom.
Yeah.
Or they create another miniature version of themselves, which would just be another authoritarian to take their place. And you see that a lot, especially with parenting, is like with males, especially if the father has really bad anger issues and is extremely authoritarian and controlling, 20 years down the line, you're going to find his son acting the same exact way.
Yeah, it actually can be worrisome, if you come from
it becomes a generational thing where they just keep carrying it on and carrying it on. I actually met a man, not exactly a big fan of his. He was a principal at a school. And he always spoke about how his dad used to be a drunk and have real bad anger issues. Well, little to be known, this man also has a very, very short temper and very, very uncontrolled anger. And I was not a very big fan of his because I'm not a big fan of authoritarian like people, especially with anger issues, being in a position of power.
No. As far as I'm concerned, as Jordan Peterson says, as somebody climbs like a dominance hierarchy, I usually, those people who I end up respecting the most, who are higher, are usually the most humble. They usually the people who are more down to earth. Yes, a lot more relaxed, like who can manage that position without being a crazy person, really.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, the military, great example. I have met sergeants who, one in particular, whenever I first made it here to Yuma, back in 2018, I met a sergeant who was so first off, he was probably the best, because I'm a technician. He was probably the best technician in the building. He was the same job as me. He was a communications technician. Well, we also have radar technicians that work with us. Well, he decided to cross-train. If he was going to be a sergeant, he wanted to cross-train. So he was a fully qualified radar and communications technician. And then on top of that, he was very laid back, down to earth. Like, he would never ask you to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself.
Yes.
So, like, if I was already
makes a difference.
If I was already busy, like, doing something, and he asked me to do it, like, I'd tell him, be like, "Hey, Sergeant, I'll get it done. Just letting you know, though, like, I was told to do this right now." And he would go, "Okay, then don't worry about it. I'll just do it." And it was never like a big deal.
But it was, and I imagine knowing somebody like that, it was more due to he wasn't so concerned with, one of my guys had something else to do. I couldn't believe that he would have something else to do and I have something for him to do. It was more like it was about the efficiency of getting something done. Those people are people I try to keep in my life. That's for sure. Like, it makes a huge difference.
Well, then also there was another sergeant who was not so good at leadership. And he was a do as I say, not as I do individual. So he would act a certain way, and the minute someone else acted a certain way, he wanted to chastise them. And they would be like, "You do it." And he'd be like, "Well, I'm a sergeant." And he would push the rank and as a form of ego.
He'd pull that rank on him.
All the time, dude. All the time. And, most individuals who join the military, they're going to be like, okay, obey the sergeant. But I have met individuals who, if somebody is being a very bad leader and an authoritarian, do as I say, not as I do, and the only thing they have is the rank, and they're just going to constantly pull the rank. I met this one dude. He was 6'4", weighed 280 pounds, pure muscle. He actually, the only reason he joined the military is because his scholarship for college ran out, and he was a college football player. And this man was massive. And this staff sergeant kept like just really picking him out from among everyone else, just really being like, for no reason,
not for nonsensical reasons.
Yeah, it's the dude wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah,
but the staff sergeant just always had like a bone to pick with him. And finally, the dude told him, he was like, "Look, I haven't done anything wrong. I don't know what your issue is, but it needs to stop. Like, I get it, you're a staff sergeant, but I'm still a person. I'm not a piece of property." Yeah. And the staff sergeant just kept going, like getting this close to the kid's face. And the dude knocked him out. The dude knocked out the staff sergeant, just whack, just completely.
Did he get in trouble?
He got in trouble for, well, partially. So he did get in trouble. And he got what's called an NJP, non-judicial punishment. It's usually stripping of rank, and you go down a rank. But since that staff sergeant was acting that way, and he was sitting there prodding that guy so much. And other staff sergeants and sergeants testified to that. The commander decided to knock that staff sergeant down a little bit and knocked him down to a corporal, which is 2 ranks below.
Oh, that had to hurt so bad.
So the guy who punched the staff sergeant only got knocked down once, which would only take about 9 months to get back his prior rank.
So more or less just for being in an incident like that.
Yeah, but the staff sergeant got knocked back 2 ranks, which will take years to get back from corporal to staff sergeant. And
that's not good.
The commander was like, hey, next time, how about whenever they're not doing anything wrong, you learn not to try to flex your rank. And it was just like, it was a proud moment for those at the bottom, because there are individuals like that.
Toppled the authority. But no, there's cases I've heard like that in the military where there'll be someone in a leadership position, and all the guys will go to say someone who's above that leader and be like, look, we cannot work for this guy. It's ridiculous what he's doing. Because what happens is sometimes, and it happens in any given hierarchy or whatever, where you get someone in there who really shouldn't be in that position. Like, they might have been capable, but maybe their mentality's right or not right, or they may not have the skill. It just depends on the person. And I do think it's the duty of, like, if, say those at the bottom, and hopefully the top are paying attention enough they can weed that out themselves, but that doesn't happen every time.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so, but we were talking about authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And of course, me, I'm like, okay, I see where Layton's coming from, but I have to be the dissenting voice. So, okay, I think about, like, okay, we'll use China for an example. Now, I know you're going to bring up their capitalism anytime I say something like this. But let me ask you this question. What do you think is the most authoritarian branch in the military? I think it's fairly obvious.
Oh, definitely the Marine Corps.
No. Oh, did I say branch in the military? I mean, like, branch of government. Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh,
geez.
The executive?
Yes, I would definitely say the executive. Okay, so what are some of the big benefits to the executive branch? And that would, to me, would be able to make those type of executive decisions. It's cool. So I think part of the reason we have an executive branch is that we can mobilize, obviously our military strength and different things like that at a given notice.
That, and it's a check and balance to both the Congress and the Senate.
Well, they're also the enforcers too.
Yeah,
which is why they're authoritarian.
I think, personally, looking back in America's history, I think the best presidents we've ever had have been the ones who aren't as authoritarian. Okay.
So who would you think? Like, I can feel like you have someone in the back of your mind. Like,
so, if the people watching are Republicans, they might not like me for this one, but I honestly think, wow, his name just left my head.
You weren't thinking Jimmy Carter, were you?
No.
John F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Kennedy. Gotcha. Oh, yeah. No. He was. Oh, he could have been so great. He was registered as a Democrat. He was voted into office. So there are some Republicans who are like, oh, but he was a Democrat. But, like, there was some stuff that he was trying to do that would have given the people of America more freedom. I had heard, I haven't done all the research myself, but I think he was trying to go back to, like, a standard of metal for currency. Like, if I'm not, he was trying to knock down the Federal Reserve. Oh, that would have been so good for this country. I'm not gonna go into the conspiracy theories behind his death and the stuff he was trying to do. Well, I mean, you could apply motive there. I mean,
well, he also was trying to get rid of the CIA. He was not a fan of the CIA. And so there's a little bit more motive that backs up some of the conspiracy theories. But like I said, I'm not going to get into them. But yeah, those were the two major things he was trying to get rid of. And it just so happened that, you know, years later down the road, the country is how many, $1 billion in debt to the Federal Reserve. And then the CIA, along with the TSA, was caught spying on, on the American people. And of course,
and then we have Edward Snowden. He's off, banished somewhere in
Russia,
Siberia.
Yeah, he's in Russia.
Which I think it's an extreme tragedy that someone like him is not viewed as a patriot. I understand where they're coming from in the sense, yes, he leaked data, but this was.
And if anybody were to bring me that argument of, oh, well, he leaked national data, and I'm going to say, yeah, that national data was infringing on your Fourth Amendment right.
Yes.
He did nothing but obey he swore to the Constitution.
Unwarranted search and seizure. I mean,
yeah, and he swore, Snowden, I think, should be hailed as one of the greatest patriots of our time because he took his oath of office, or not oath of office, but his oath to the Constitution serious.
Yeah, at his own peril too. And and I think honestly, and from watching some interviews with him, I think real patriots, they end up coming from this place where they're willing to suffer for it. In that they end up realizing that they have family here. And they have generations to come. And
his girlfriend at the time, they're now married. She actually did move out to Russia with him.
That's good.
So that's one good thing. But the fact that he can never come back to America to see his parents,
I think it's a shame that someone would have to flee to Russia. I mean, you think about. I mean, I have different feelings about Russia. But it just shows like. When they're taking someone in asylum, it's very interesting.
Yeah, for us to be labeled the country of the free, right?
Yeah.
But then someone who we have propagandized, or I don't even know if that's the proper word, we have distributed a lot of propaganda.
And it's like everybody knows that he's good, but it still stands.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that this is a good man.
Well, I don't even know about, I'm not even talking about the propaganda against Snowden. For the past, 60, 70 years, how much propaganda have we put out against Russia?
It's unreal. And that's what I don't get is where people, they're so, like I said, hard up against Russia. When Russia and us really could be working together a lot more than people realize. But
just the fact that America has for years said, Russia is the enemy. Russia is a utilitarian, authoritarian, communist state. And we have
keeping that water boiling. Always keeping that water boiling with Russia.
And, what's weird is for someone who loved our country so much and loved the Constitution so much that he was willing to put his own life at risk, he has to run from the nation of the free to the utilitarian, authoritarian, communist country.
I will say Russia. If we're just talking about as a country in general, they don't have as much freedom.
Yeah, they're not. Well, they're also not as communist as they used to be. Ever since the USSR fell, they actually have. It's a lot more capitalistic than most people think. If you just don't read about it and you just
they just don't have that. I do what I want culture like America has.
Well,
it's like yes and no, but really
the laws say no, you won't do what you want over in Russia, but the people they don't care. I've
met a lot of people from say countries that have broke off from Russia, and then some people who are, and I don't get that exact feeling.
They're not. Well, they're just like America. We have people who they want to obey the laws, they want to obey the social norms, but then you have the people who are saying, I don't care. Well, Russia, whenever they don't care, it's like to an extreme, because there are still certain things outlawed that happen in like the underground. And like, you don't want to get arrested by a Russian cop. If you've ever read up about like, if people think American cops are brutal, like Russia will pull out the freaking nightstick and just whack.
Yeah, just, no, they don't care at all.
They don't, and so the citizens have gotten to a point where like they kind of don't, like the ones who do disobey the law, they don't care.
Yeah,
because it's just like but it's not. My dog is over here trying to get my lap. He's 90-something pounds, German Shepherd, and he thinks he's a lap dog.
I feel you. That's how bad it is.
But like, of course, you have your law-abiding citizens in Russia who abide by all the laws and such. But the ones who don't, it's not in the same. It's more of the I do what I want because like I feel like a badass kind of stuff, especially the videos of people in Russia I've seen like going against the police.
The Russian mob sounds like a much more serious thing than like than say something like an American mob over here. You don't hear about that near as much.
See, well,
there's a lot there. It's kind of like if I'm not mistaken, because this is the type of feeling I get from Russia. Like in Mexico, there are certain protections with being part of different groups. And I think Russia and even Mexico they've developed that within their government system. Then there are other protections under that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like if you're a small man, that might be. It's like your own form of union. You know?
Like the cartel.
Yeah,
in Mexico. Yeah. Well, Russia isn't as blatant about it. Like Mexico, everybody knows. Like the cartel runs Mexico. Like everybody knows that. Russia, though, they claim that the Mafia doesn't run Russia. I have my doubts. If is the Russian prime minister a part of the Russian Mafia? Maybe. He's actually
Putin, if you're talking about Putin, would make you wonder. That guy.
Well, that's because I've seen Putin shoot guns, and he's very.
But he's also, if I'm not mistaken, he's former KGB too. So like he was kind of a badass on every level until like I said, he's just he's an interesting guy. But if you've ever listened to him speak, he definitely has.
He's intelligent.
He's very intelligent, and he's definitely. Now, Trump did this a lot in ignorance, and I think Putin does it a lot more carefully, where he's definitely not willing to back down or use a show of force.
Well, they say, people were like, Trump is the first president to have balls. His, like you said, was mostly out of just like ignorance. Like,
I also think he believed in. Like Trump's a very interesting creature, but I do think he genuinely believes in the country and in the people, and I think Putin has that to an extent as well. But he very much knows what his country's capable of, and he knows kind of like if there's any country that like if we had to go to war today, Russia I still would think would be feared over China.
Oh no, absolutely. Russia, they might not have as many men. As China, because China obviously have like the biggest population out of any country.
Yeah.
But their special forces are like they are not to be messed with. KGB. They are.
I don't think they call them that anymore.
Not anymore. I forget what they call them, but
hold on. I'll find that. You go ahead though.
But I think they are a force to be reckoned with. These guys, I've seen videos of them do like little drills and stuff.
Oh, they're Spetsnaz or
Spetsnaz?
Spetsnaz, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. they are a force to be reckoned with. Like these guys are big. These guys are big.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, it's kind of like, well, you know what they say about Russians anyway is that they can. I mean, they can be big, like Viking men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then imagine putting special forces trainings on,
on top of that, and then putting a gun in their hand after being trained. I'm just like, I'm good. Like, let's. They not.
Just Mortal Kombat fatality your ass. And,
like I'm good. I'm not trying to have my spine ripped out of my body.
Yeah.
But no, you can definitely tell, like, whenever Putin thinks the best. So, and
didn't he challenge somebody? Like, he challenged, I think it was Biden to a debate, or was it Trump? I can't remember. It might have been Biden. He challenged him to a public debate. I'm like, I wish something like that would happen. So maybe the American people get a higher standard.
Maybe then people would think before voting.
I mean, because you think about it, so you have this other nuclear power, and their president actually thinks for themselves.
Hold on now. We don't have nukes anymore, Brandon. We don't have nukes. Nobody have nukes. Okay, we had to sign a paper saying we would get rid of all our nukes.
We all have nukes.
We all have nukes.
Yes,
Russia and America control most of the nukes.
Literally we have enough between the both of us, and I think even one of us, to send the world into an ice age. I mean,
no, that's like a nuclear apocalypse for sure.
Yeah, the fact that I was listening to somebody about getting these things off deck, and nobody trusts each other enough to get rid of these bad boys. And
because if we get rid of them, but Russia says they do, but they really don't. Well, now they have the upper hand because they have a destroying capability to just absolutely bring the sun to Earth.
Yes, really.
Basically,
it's one of those things to where you really don't want the light of. And see, I think America needs to be careful when we use language like this, because we have to maintain the light of freedom to be extinguished by any other country. And I do feel like, so we might actually disagree on this, but I do really feel like America, because it is my country, obviously, should be the most powerful country in the world. I feel like if you're any kind of citizen of your country, you definitely want your country to be sovereign enough to where everyone, even working together shouldn't be able to stop you.
I want America to be what we were called back in World War II, the sleeping giant. I
feel you. Okay, I can agree with that. I definitely.
In an alternate reality, let's say I had it my way, right? Everything with how I wanted it. America would be like one giant Switzerland. We would be armed to the absolute teeth.
I was going to say that, yeah.
But neutral. We're not playing around in the Middle East for no apparent reason. We're not messing with South America. We're not prodding China or Russia.
And I think what it's come down to with our foreign policy is, so there's two sides to it. There's the moral side, which I really don't think the government cares about. I'll be honest with you. I think that's why the American people allow it so much, is that they sell it to the American people like we're this moral country. Because obviously, and we talked about this last time, we're the only country that has bases in other countries. I'm sure we're not the only one, but we have a lot, between our NATO treaties and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think that, I'm with you 100% when I think that America is best, whatever secures our national security better, that doesn't require us to be a paranoid country. If we can do a Switzerland type of foreign policy, I think that would be, first of all, it's good politics. If you're not messing with everybody's stuff, nobody's messing with your stuff.
Yep.
You
And
know,
if they do mess with your stuff, right, you like if your country is known as the sleeping giant, I doubt somebody's gonna mess with your stuff.
Okay.
They're like, this guy's neutral. He's
Well,
not
it's kind of like we a lot of people will call Russia that, but it's like, don't get them involved. It only causes more problems.
Just leave them alone.
Just
honestly. So
and that would be the best way if people wanted to take down America. That would be the best way to get everybody on your side.
There's this video right on TikTok, and it makes me laugh every time I see it. And this guy, he's doing the skit, right? And he has like the name Germany across his chest. And then like he plays different countries as characters. And Japan runs into the room talking to Germany. And he goes, hey, guess what I did? And Germany's like,
oh no.
What did you are you moving against the United Kingdom? And he's like, no, I bombed Pearl Harbor. And Germany's like, you did what? and I love it because then America like breaks down the door. And
had they left us alone, the world would look a lot different.
A lot different.
And the world would look a lot different. Honestly, I think communism would have fell like pretty quickly. Then you would have had to deal with a German populace that was very motivated
across Europe for sure.
Oh yeah, because I mean, the Germans just wreaked between all of Europe. They just wreaked absolutely. They could have took that continent, and had they not had bigger ambitions.
Well, the Germans are very, very industrial people, and I honestly think that like the German people, like as a nation and as a people, they even to this day, like firearms manufacturers coming from Germany make some of the best firearms.
Oh yeah, I don't know of any German manufacturers. I'm not big on guns.
H&K.
I've never heard of them. I like guns. Don't misunderstand. I just haven't had. I'm just not the person that I don't seek it out. It's just not. It wasn't.
Oh no, yeah, I do. I love my guns.
I love shooting, and I just I'll go into philosophy or technology before I'll worry about buying a weapon. It's just one of those.
I do both. I have a really how some people are like car guys.
That's me. That's me. I'm a car guy.
Oh, see, I gave up cars for guns and video games.
Yeah.
And back there in the very recesses of like my mind, there's this tiny little obsession that have the greatest influence over my brain, and it's my book buying addiction. I
feel you.
I'm like, the wife was like, you want to go to Barnes and Noble? And I'm like, no. And she's like, why? And I was like, because like I don't need to spend the money. There aren't books that I necessarily need or want at the moment, so I avoid going in Barnes and Noble. Because the minute I go in Barnes and Noble, boom, I find a book, and I'm like, you know what? I want it. And the book, is a hardcover because I love my hardcovers, so it's like $40. And then I'm like, oh well, here's the sequel. Might as well get that one too. And I'm like, next thing I know, it's $80, and I'm like, what?
I feel you.
So I have to really regulate myself with books, because in my head I'm like, oh, $40 isn't that much, and I love reading. But it's easier to regulate my gun buying because guns are much more expensive.
Yeah, that's how I feel about car parts. It helps when you're like when you pull. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's where you're not spending. If I had the money, I would be like, okay, it's $800 on rims this week. It's it would be let's get I get this car reprogrammed so that way it runs. I could see myself spending a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, if I had the money, I would own a library, and I would also own an armory. But I don't have that kind of money.
Oh, so that would be great just to have one. Like, okay, you ever seen those like Verizon UPS stores, like where they're like mixed together, or like a KFC and a Taco Bell? You know what I'm saying? Like,
have like bookshelf, and then a space in between them with a gun rack with rifles.
Yeah. I think you should put like a sign between the two that says, one that leads to the bookstore, it says the pen is mightier than the sword, and be like the other sign say, don't be so sure.
Be like, look, not everyone is up for a intellectual, calm discussion. So for those people who crave violence, these are here.
Just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. Actually, I was. Who was it that told me that? Somebody said you just want to watch the world burn, and I was like, yeah, no, not necessarily, but I mean, it's an interesting idea. And,
well, I hope the human species lives long enough where we don't have to see that, but it depends. If you take like a biblical approach to it, then it's going to go up in a fervent heat. But I want to see how far we get, if that makes sense. Like,
well,
I'm a space guy.
I'm thinking pretty far, because right now, technically, water levels are rising. We were actually talking about it the other day at work, and we were talking about, there is a part of me and my other friend who, although this sounds terrible, but it's not for. I love animals, right? But if the ice cap,
after the animals, folks.
No. If the ice caps melted, right, and the sea levels rose, it would be a nice reset, kinda, because it would push people like Florida.
He's talking about genocidal reset, people.
No, don't get me wrong. Like, it would obviously happen over an extended period of time, like up to 1,000 years. But like, the ocean level rose, like most of LA.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Cali would be underwater, a lot of Florida. And
I don't know about Florida. Yeah, I like Florida. California's done enough. They can go under.
It's not that I don't like Cali or don't like Florida. It's just the way that people live now in like really big cities, and what I hate is whenever someone who lives in a very big city tries to tell me about I need to be more economic friendly.
Oh yes.
But I lived out in the countryside. I breathe fresh air. Like, we actually farm out here. We are economic friendly.
Yeah.
So like,
don't you know my brain works a little better? Like, we're not breathing in the smog.
Yeah,
I'm human all natural.
The part of me is like, a little part of me is like, yeah, let the ocean's level rise, and it'll push people out of those big cities that are creating so much pollution, and they will have to learn how to live off the land, and like, it'll be a nice not ecological, or like environmental reset. And we were talking about that, and although like,
well, it wouldn't happen overnight.
No, it wouldn't.
And I think it would be. I'll say it like this: there are a reason places are below sea level. They're supposed to be underwater, not like morally supposed to be underwater. But
no, not like that. But
but it's. I think either way, with people, we tend to gather in groups, and here's why: is that the closer people are together, the more they can pull their resources.
Yeah.
Now, I think transportation being absolutely revolutionized by the automotive industry is extremely helped, but that seems to have only accelerated our capabilities of building bigger cities.
Yeah.
So I think it would start a reset to where we would start doing that again. And that's the whole Tower of Babel idea. The more people are able to like come together, the more they're going to build that giant sky tower. Have you ever seen this is old, I don't think they're going to do it, or at least I haven't heard anything new about it, but it was a concept in Japan for a sky city. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No,
I'm talking about like the size of 20 World Trade Centers, but taller. And pretty much building a city where obviously greenery, there are certain floors where it's just totally greenery, you know what I'm saying? And then there's a residential district big enough to make its own city in the sky. It's a really interesting concept. I really do think people are eventually going to get to a place.
Whatever engineer comes up with how to make a structurally sound building that tall without it being able to be toppled over by extreme winds once it gets up that high, that man is going to make a lot of money, because that I think is a very hard mountain to climb over is
it's building a mountain. That's the thing,
I mean, essentially, yeah.
I
think it all depends on where they do it. I don't know if Japan would be able to.
If anybody would be able to pull it off, as far as like the technology and engineers.
Well, not exactly the technology of the engineer, just like the location of Japan. And the type of weather they have. Because
they're so think about this. They're the only people. I say the only. Don't misunderstand. There's lots of people who live in like a Galapagos type setting, but they have very serious motivations for something like that.
Yeah,
because saving, the fact that it's actually they're the type they've increased building standards for places like say like the Philippines or something like that, because they've built structures that can get on bedrock and still handle earthquakes without toppling over.
Well, I mean, they have a good amount of people in very big cities, but very limited space. Japan only goes so far. It's still an island. Now it's a big island.
But there are definitely parts that are still rural.
Oh no, there are. There's definitely countrysides to Japan, and
that's where I want to go and start my car mafia. That's really...
your car mafia.
Yes.
Well, if you want to be able to go to like the public like masseuses or like the relaxation places, don't have any tattoos.
So I don't have any tattoos. Actually, I was working on one, but it didn't go so well. There's a big anti-tattoo culture. It's not like something that's even stated over there. It's just kind of like, no, it's like, how you have the old lady over here, where they're like, they see somebody with tattoos, they're like, oh my gosh, he's a drug dealer, he's in a gang. Well, that's like most of the country over there.
And it's because
their gangs are literally like that. Yakuza.
Yeah, the Yakuza are about the only people who have tattoos, because that's actually a tradition for the Yakuza. Is like,
it's changing though.
It is. Well, similar to like Japan had their sexual revolution. They've had very big cultural advances. Because you got to think, for a long time Japan was a very isolated country.
Yes, no,
very isolated.
They actually had a much more Switzerland-like approach at one point in their history.
They didn't mess with anybody, and nobody messed with them.
What was kind of like it was safer that way. You know what I'm saying?
For a small country,
new people brought diseases. You know what I'm saying? It was actually smart.
Yeah. No, I mean, new people bring diseases, and if those diseases have never been in Japan before, like the simple thing, like the common cold, if it has never touched like Japan at all, and then somebody brings,
then it's lethal at that point.
Yeah,
it's it's not the common cold anymore.
Yeah,
it's kind of like we're like cockroaches, man. We evolve every year to fight the next up and coming disease, and people don't realize that the coronavirus one day, whatever you want to call it, will probably be very minor,
like the flu. And the cold.
Yeah, I mean, give it 50 years, and you're definitely not going to be concerned with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I was talking about this the other day with one of the other guys at work, and we were talking about the possibility of the Black Plague coming back.
Oh gosh, have you? Okay, so I know a lot of people complained, and I'll let you get back to that, about how bad the coronavirus is. Me and my buddy, by happenstance, we were talking about this, and we looked up the numbers for the Black Plague and different plagues throughout history, and we have people think humanity's gone down and our ability to handle things like this. We've done so much better. We got off easy.
Yeah. If COVID-19 is a plague that brings death and despair, then we are on the easy road
Yeah.
Because the Black Plague going across Europe, dude, it just wiped out many people.
Just imagine you just walking down the road, back in Europe back then, and every house you pass by, it's probably got, I'm not saying this is what they did, but like kind of an X on it or something, just to make sure you didn't walk by there because it's the infected. Like it's like not the zombie apocalypse without the zombies, like that rate of infection, you know.
Well, me and my buddy were talking about it because the Black Plague, if I'm not mistaken, if I am, correct me, but I'm pretty sure it came from. Now I got to make sure.
I'm looking it up. Origins. Let's see here. Let's see here. Dead. Afro-racial. Bubonic plague. Not seeing exactly how it got started. I don't want to say what I think because I might be wrong.
It came from with an infection known as from the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Yersinia pestis is a bacterium transmitted from rodents to humans by the bite of infected fleas.
Oh God! So yeah, but fleas make a good carrier for disease, don't they? It's like mosquitoes.
Yeah. Well, see, and mine and my buddy's thought process was because we have a lot of people in these big cities living in really bad conditions.
Oh, it's kind of makes them at their attack vector for disease,
Yeah. Well, for example, like Skid Row in California, just like homeless people basically living in their own filth. Like, you're going to tell me there aren't rats there or fleas?
Oh yeah, no, you're definitely more likely to. It's kind of like, okay, so in the Carolinas over here, every now and then something will happen to where somebody in the community will need a little help. Say they're somebody who's disabled who lives by themselves. Me and my mom, one time we would go help these people clean their house, and they would become hoarders. You know what I'm saying? Just because people haven't been watching them, or even my buddy, me and Kevin, we've went to different people's houses and really cleaned their whole house because we didn't do it because of that. We just did it because we were friends. But to make sure that because anytime you're not clean, that's what people don't understand. Being clean is super important, and because it keeps all that stuff at bay.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I think if I was homeless, now I'm not sure like the situation everybody's in say like California or something like that. That even in Spartanburg, if I was homeless, I would have to get out of the city.
Yeah,
I'd have to go somewhere and I think the reason they stay is because that there are resources there that wouldn't otherwise be available. But man, I'd have to get out of that situation. And I know it's hard. But
and especially in the bigger cities, for example, like Skid Row in California, like me and my buddy were saying, like they're kind of setting up the perfect
storm
grounds. Yeah, the perfect like festing grounds for something like that to come back.
Which is what you think about. People talk about the Chinese markets and things like that, where we've had issues in the past because you have all these animals together with all the set amount of filth. You know what I'm saying? And it is the perfect breeding ground for bacteria, especially room temperature. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of things.
Or like if it's warm, if it's like a little, like not too hot, but like a little warm, bacteria manifests itself a lot quicker that way.
Yes. No, and extreme colds and extreme heat kill bacteria.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But right there in the middle, man,
that's where we thrive. That's where life thrives. And the thing is, this sounds awful when you say it like that, but you don't want the right kind, the wrong kind of life producing itself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's because you get these. I mean, I would go as far as calling bacterial diseases, infections, the viruses, stuff like that, I would call them invasive species because they spread really fast and they aren't beneficial at all.
Yeah.
They're
I mean, it depends on. I mean, they might be beneficial to them. They're not beneficial to us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're not beneficial to us.
You know, I'm very obviously it's this bad for mankind. I think there's a lot of people who actually take up the same view like that on humans, and I think that's a very dangerous approach.
Yes, there's actually a stone or something like that is in Georgia that somebody carved, and it has like the rules for human beings on it. And of course, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories around it being the New World Order or satanic and stuff like that. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories, but rule number one
is that in Georgia?
Yeah,
that's somewhere else. Well, that's a little creepy close.
Yeah, well, you want something a little bit closer. Right there above the state line of South Carolina to North Carolina. It's right in North Carolina, and it's called the Devil's Stomping Ground. And
I've heard of this, but I haven't heard much about it. Devils.
See, I love creepy stuff like that. So,
why you tell me about these things? What's the lore on that?
So it's like this big circle that like nothing grows, and people say that if you camp near it, like you'll get woken up from the sounds of like hooves, and it'll like smell like sulfuric almost. And
I need to go camping.
People have tried to camp in the circle, and they have claimed to woken up their entire camp mile away. Like their vehicle would still be over by the circle, but their tent and everything that was inside that circle is moved almost like a mile away.
Like I'm not Mr. Ghost Hunter, right? But anytime you have an anomaly, like where you have multiple people claiming like an anomaly like that, there's something deep down in my soul that wants to go set up trail cams.
And see what's going on.
And then go camp in the circle yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm the type of person I would like to set, if I could, manage a perimeter around the circle. That way, because there's always the human element to where somebody could, just be moving people, or, I'm not saying it like they could tranquilize them. I mean, it's not impossible. There's a way to do something like that.
Tranquilize them and then move all their stuff a mile away using a vehicle, and the person's going to be knocked out because the tranquilizer, and then just put them back in the tent.
Yeah. So I would definitely, I need to go over there. I need to see what's legal to do.
Oh no. I've set you on a road.
Yeah, you've set me on a path to distract. Like you just never see another podcast again. No one ever hears from me again. We might get Josh Berry on this because he's got extra cameras.
That's a fun guy. Very interesting guy.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's special. We actually had him on last week. He's a prankster. He's a prankster by nature. Like if I had to compare him to anybody, it'd probably be like Steven Crowder. Like I think he's going. Me and him talked. He's like, I think I'm going in some sort of weird direction like that.
Yeah,
I can see him like.
If I had to like put people in these little boxes with labels, like the one I put myself in is like a debater because I love to debate. But him, it's definitely like a prankster. That's the little box I'm putting him in. Is like, his energy.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of, if I had to put myself in some sort of little box, I guess like, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like I'm super curious. Anytime I hear a different subject that I know nothing about, like, especially if it has any like world relevance at all or relevance to humankind or like the nature of being itself, that definitely like gets my crank going,
Oh yeah, but what I was saying, that stone that I'm pretty sure it's Georgia. I'll fact check it, but
go on with your statement.
But the first rule that's on that stone actually talks about keeping the human population under like
a billion,
under 500 million.
Oh snap! They've got more aggressive with this number.
Yeah, in order to keep humanity in balance with nature.
I think that's so silly.
Yeah.
I watched. Now I have more research to do on such a subject, but there's actually evidence that human population will level out.
It will.
So like, what do they call that effect? It's where you reach an equilibrium of, say, populace. And I think there's a lot of things like that. But
well, what happens is whenever for example, the generations, we have the baby boomers, but now the later generations, actually, it's been shown they're not having kids until, almost their 30s. And they're only having like 1 or 2 kids.
Yeah, I actually think that's actually a really bad thing.
It can be. Yeah, it can, especially whenever it comes to economics, workforce, and society as a whole.
Yeah, well, I don't think people realize, like, the more people there are, the more that we're actually capable of, and the more likely we are to survive as a species.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens, though, is because you end up having a boom of population, we end up equaling, like, we end up equaling ourselves out by, and like I said, the generations are the perfect example. The baby boomers, usually, most baby boomers have quite a few siblings.
Yeah.
And then they also have 1 to 2, maybe even 3 kids or more.
Well, I know. Okay, so like, my parents, or my mom's side, at least we were talking about this yesterday, she had 7 siblings.
Yeah.
So, and they were the baby boomer, and Generation X is the generation they were born in. So, it's.
And what'll happen? I think of it like like lungs.
Like
lungs. Right? Yeah, like the lungs in your body.
Okay. Expand.
So they expand, and then it contracts.
Okay.
Just to go and expand again.
Oh, so you think like levels of human population expanding?
Yeah.
Without like a huge extinction level event, I think that's kind of true.
Yeah. Well, yeah, without a huge extinction level kind of event happening, but you know how many asteroids were supposed to hit us that haven't. So
and we're very lucky in this short time frame.
First off, we're in Earth. There's a couple other planets similar to Earth that are just in that perfect sweet spot, but if Saturn,
we're not the only one. People used to think we were the only one. But that's not the case.
No. There's actually Kepler 42. I think that's the name of it. It's like
I've heard of it.
Like 3 light years or 30 light years, something like that away. Like stupidly long distance away. It's a mega Earth, basically. It's like 10 times the size of Earth, but it's like just the same. Like perfect conditions, but it's like 10 times the size.
If you had this is, I know, a little off topic. If you had the opportunity to take a space flight, you could get there in like 3 years to go to a planet like that. Would you?
Absolutely.
Oh, I got somebody to go with me.
Absolutely. Like, the wife is coming too.
Yeah, I feel you.
We're going. We're like,
I will join that space crew that takes like their family with them. Yeah, and like decides whether humanity can survive on another planet. We'll probably die. But if we succeeded, we would be like the most dope pioneers ever. I'm just saying, we pioneered a planet.
Yeah, we pioneered. Look, and I will make just for the laughs, I'm making yeet an official part of that planet's dictionary.
Say what? Say that again.
Yeet.
Oh no!
Yes, I'm making it.
Bring that.
Yes, I'm bringing it to that planet for the simple reason of if we have to shoot an animal, yeet. If I throw something,
no. It's just like everything is yeet.
All things. If something.
What if we ran across an indigenous population there? Would we sell ourselves as like? We would have to make ourselves like their leaders. Like, I don't know. That'd be awful though.
It would. No, we'll see. I think
we need a workforce though.
Well, what would
authoritarian workforce?
No. See, if they were an indigenous people, like we're talking like Bronze Era, like no industrialization at all, right? Mm-hmm. If we came from the sky, they would do the same exact thing that Bronze Era humans did on Earth.
Oh, so you think we'd be like Thor? Like
they would no. I honestly think they would either see us as two things. If we were the first ones they've ever seen, right? They would treat us two ways. They would either treat us as the demons,
or the gods,
That's the only.
We should definitely go with gods. I think.
But see, at that point, then if they choose to worship you like a god.
But I mean, we throw them a constitution verbatim.
Yeah, and I'll be like, hey, have you ever heard of natural law? You have innate rights that can't be taken away.
Yeah, it's just like
he won't know
we'll be like. They're like, what God? And we'll be like, the only God. And just
they're just us. There aren't.
That'd be awful.
And then once they get into the industrial age, teach it you know what? I honestly think if we were to go across and find a species like that, we would probably speed them up in technology so fast.
Yeah.
Because with us knowing,
I wonder what mistakes would come with say, well, you think about, okay, so this is maybe a crude example, but okay, there's a lot of places in Africa that are getting sped up like this very quickly. Mm-hmm. And now the question is, does evolution or this is assuming you believe in a form of evolution, does say biology naturally create human-like species or in a humanoid form? And we don't know that.
I was about to say we don't know for sure. I think different.
But if they did, I think it could actually go very well. If we were more or less upfront with them and be like, look, we're not as special as you're making us out to be.
Yeah.
But let me show you how we can, because at that point, it's what somebody tell me that the technology we use today would have been considered magic in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And so
until you
understand
teach them
how to use magic,
Well, see, until they understand how it works, it'll be seen as magic, similar to a lot of science. At first, it was called witchcraft, and then it was called alchemy, and then it was actually hey, this isn't some evil thing. It's just science.
Well, I think what also has happened throughout the years is with enough trial and error, we have found out that a lot of spiritual elements to get things to happen in the universe that wouldn't otherwise happen really don't work. Mm-hmm. Which is okay, so I have people who I care about who are pagans and things like that. Mm-hmm. And if I knew somebody that really would claim their witchcraft would work, I would love to put that in a scientific setting. Find out how that works really. And some people will be like, you shouldn't mess with witchcraft. That's not science. That's not how you figure things out. If it's working, I want to know why.
Right.
So I don't know. That would be so cool though.
We had run into another problem though. If they aren't like human,
then we have serious communication problems.
One, communication. Two, let's say they are land dwelling, right? Not water dwelling. They're land dwelling, but they aren't. So for all scientific purposes, right? Yeah. They aren't similar to monkeys.
Well, okay, so did you watch the movie Arrival? It's an alien movie. You should watch
I don't think I have.
Okay, so in that movie, the aliens were actually closer to octopi. Mm-hmm. So and it could be that if there is other life elsewhere, that it could be geared more towards, say, octopi rather than a human form, if that makes sense.
Well, then you start running into not just the
the communication issue,
but you also run into the reproductive issue, because now you have two races on one singular planet who can't mix in order to create one flowing like ecosystem between those two species. You have two, because before humans being on their planet, they would be the apex species because they're the most developed. But then you have us.
Yeah.
But we're in much fewer numbers because obviously, unless we're taking the entire human population to this new planet, like they're gonna send a small number just to see if we survive. So then we have a larger population that we can't integrate with, can't communicate with them. No reproduction is going to happen with them. So then you run into the fact of apex species versus apex species. We have more advanced technology, but they have greater numbers.
Well, I guess if they had more advanced technology, unless they were a Switzerland planet,
Yeah.
We might just run up on the wrong planet. You never know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, unless, and like, this is it's very crude, but
I saw your wife skid. Sorry.
She's skidded back there.
She's like the ghost in Paranormal.
It's very crude, but if humanity were to go to another planet, right, and if we were treated as somewhat special, unless the rest of the human population came to that planet, the only way, eventually you might still have, depending on how many humans went to that planet, you might still have a human population left in a couple hundred years after that, but you also might not, because if humans are we're
very fragile in our
we are fragile, but we're also very reproductive focused creatures.
Yeah.
Like
that helps keep us around.
Yeah, it helps keep us around, right? So like, if reproduction is possible with the other species, you'd probably end up like after a couple hundred years, there wouldn't actually be any pure humans on that planet. They would probably be mixed breeds.
Well, honestly, this is going to sound weird. That'd probably be for the best.
Probably to help us adapt faster.
Not just adapt faster, but okay. So I believe that humanity faces, I don't know how soon it will be or anything like that, but I do believe our genome is actually deteriorating. So I take like an opposite version of an evolutionary approach. Evolution does work. However, I don't think it adds like, say, new parts, if that makes sense. I think we always lose. Like, so say, now we get lucky in like the way genes work, because like, so say if I were to, breed with someone who had red hair, the odds are that they wouldn't get red hair because that's a recessive gene, and any bad genes, like say sensitivity to sun cancer or, skin cancer, would probably be masked by my genes. But that doesn't actually mean there are any new genes being produced. That's just old genes coming along. So humanity, due to mutation of the sun, the second law of thermodynamics, everything tends toward chaos. Well, I do believe the genome is like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the only reason I say that would be good for humanity is to have, say, someone with a completely separate genome, is that our library of genes would actually be substantially increased again.
Right.
Whereas it's been dwindling. It's kind of like a chihuahua. They're actually on the lower end of the gene pool. They have their genes are getting limited. They're probably never going to produce a really big dog if you get chihuahuas together again. You know what I'm saying? So they actually,
because they've been bred for so long in a certain fashion. Yeah. And then humans similarly. I will say though, I do think humans are, I think if we are losing in the genome, I think it's losing to adapt, like change, in order to grow. Because if you look at like the height, for example, between medieval men, even in like the places like Scandinavia, for example, from the skeletons and stuff, that, aren't deteriorated. The bone structures of like the Vikings, who the Englishmen claimed were like giants among men, were only about 5'10". So in retrospect, that was tall back then. But what is tall now? We have guys hitting 7 foot now.
Well, I mean, there's definitely ancient records of people,
There are. There's some very tall, but I'm saying on average, our heights are increasing. So I do think that if we are decreasing on the genome level, it's not we're getting so narrow that, eventually we're just gonna like, bleh. But well,
I think there's, I do believe there's a limit to that. Okay. And this is why I'm hopeful for gene editing. And this is where, I hope one day I'll get my wings. But
you too? Wings would be awesome.
I'm just saying, if you ever watched like X-Men Apocalypse and you saw that guy with the wings, like
you ever watch My Hero Academia?
Yes. Oh, it's so. I mean, do you see the poster, sir? Like, do you see?
Oh, I didn't see it. I actually
do. You see the poster?
Okay. What's his name? What's his name that has the quirk? He has the red wings on his back.
I can't think of it right now. How do you?
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I love that guy. I thought he was the cool stuff.
Yes. So my hope one day is that if life does actually continue, hold on, I got his name pulled up here, so it's making me mad that I didn't know. Quirk. I gotta know.
Yeah, he has wings. Red. They're red. He has blonde hair.
I'm getting a lot of concept art. It's making me mad. Hawks brings his wings.
Hawks.
It's not Hawks. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, but that's not the point. So I would really hope like that would be the way, like humanity, because I do believe there's a limit to like, say, possibly an extinction level event coming one day. You know what I'm saying? That you think about there are certain. We just found out that there are certain types of snails that can live in like lava. Yep. Yeah, I saw that the other day, and I'm like, oh man, like we really do need to be able to. And it's hard to experiment with humans, obviously, but we really need to get a hold of this genome thing, like as a species.
Well, so scientists are already playing around with other creatures. For example, I saw this one where they were trying to put spider DNA into is it a sheep? Yeah, sheep. And the reason being is instead of growing fibers, right, that would be used for clothing, it would instead be like wool. It would essentially be like a spider web, but like
grows out of fabric. The sheep.
Yeah.
Which would be an amazing material that we desperately need for durability.
Yes, because a lot of people don't realize this. The tensile strength of spider web it's
better than anything we can produce.
Yeah, it's stupidly strong. And basically, if it were to grow out of a lamb and woven together, we'd be able to make a steel cable so strong. And they were thinking about using it for military purposes to put it on the big carriers, because they have a steel cable that whenever planes land, in the middle of the sea.
Oh, yeah.
The cable actually latches onto the plane. It helps catch the plane to keep the plane from, it helps them slow down. It keeps them from going off the other side of the carrier. And they were talking about using them like that because steel can still snap, but this material would be able to it would be so strong, but it's flexible at the same time where it would catch and basically just bring it back. It would solve.
Yeah, well, can you imagine the architectural feats with something like that? I mean, there's just no telling.
The bridges. Yeah. The big bridges where we have a bunch of steel cables.
I would love to see the upper limits of, say, a scale model size of, say, fibers like that, of what type of cable that could be produced and what the limits to something like that be. So, I mean, you think about what they hold. I mean, there are spiders that are, 1/20th the size of a snake that can catch a snake and kill it. I saw one the other day. It blows my mind. That usually wouldn't be possible. Or you think about whatever's going on with the bumblebee, to where they can still fly. I mean, that's a real scientific mystery.
Yeah, because their wings aren't big enough to hold up their body weight. It doesn't produce enough lift, no matter how quickly they flap them. Scientifically speaking, and like mathematically, the size of the wings does not support their body weight at all. But somehow they fly.
Yes, that's amazing. It blows my mind.
I honestly think that their exoskeletons are way more hollow than we think. Because birds, for example, they have hollow bones, essentially. And they're able to fly. And honestly, I think the same kind of thing is happening with bumblebees. I think they're a lot more hollow than we actually think.
Maybe. I have no idea. But well, also, I always wondered if they accounted for the fact of how fast their wings actually flap. So, I mean, like,
they do flap pretty fast.
And so it's kind of like, you don't get as much lift based off the span. However, they flap so much that maybe that makes up a partial bit. Maybe some of what you're talking about makes up for where they lack in actually being their size. Because, I mean, you got to think about, if you make something light enough, if you were to make a plane as light as a piece of paper, we'll use that as an example, and a full-size plane, and you gave it half the wingspan, that bad boy's still going to fly.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying it's exactly that ratio with them, but it might be probably something like that. I'm
thinking it's a mixture of those two. I think they're a little bit more hollow than we think, and then I also believe the speed of the flap.
It's got to be more complicated than that, though, because I mean, obviously guys have looked into it way more than us just talking.
Well, see, there's actually a theory that I didn't see until TikTok, and apparently it's a relatively new theory. And so of course the Big Bang Theory, right?
Okay.
Well, people were saying, why did the Big Bang Theory like boom, And so scientists predicted, and it's now a theory that essentially, like, because there are stars dying and black holes are forming. And black holes, if you know anything about them, they're this little bitty dense object that's just so dense it creates a gravitational
pull, and that way it sucks all that,
even the light,
creates even more denser mass. And
the gravity is so great, even light can't escape it.
Yes.
So like that's how crazy this density is, and like the gravitational pull. And so
did you watch Interstellar? I have watched Interstellar. Oh, I don't know I think I may have mentioned that movie to you before, but it's such a great movie. Watching the guy go through the black hole is like, that'll get your imagination going so much. You mentioned it to me last time, and I told you I hadn't watched it, but in the 2-week time span, I actually did watch it. So, yeah. What did you think? I think it's cool. I think going through thinking, so there is a theory that black holes are like wormholes, and on one side, which is our side, it's black, but on the other side it's white, and there's actually a legitimate scientific theory for that. And I think it's interesting, but it made for a good movie. It made for a really good movie. Matthew McConaughey is like one of my favorite actors too. So he's a great actor, but I think it made for a good movie. I just don't think that black holes are wormholes. Well, so it'd be interesting if it was, but honestly, it might be. There's part of me that really feels like that's just the great condensation of matter that condenses to, say, like a Big Bang level event. No, and the theory I was talking about is basically the entirety of the universe, like everything. Because if you know anything about the universe, you know that it's constantly expanding. And I'll use the lungs theory or analogy again. It expands, but then it's gonna contract. And so black holes are the contractor of the universe. Well, think about it this way. Okay, so if there is a multiverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say that one of these universes eventually bump up to each other just due to the nature of expansion. That could set in place the motion of contraction. You know, and when it contracts so much, like say these black holes converge, that might be when they finally converge enough that might be when they expand. I'm not sure.
Well, that gets around to the theory. So the theory is that basically if everything in this universe, right, after it's done expanding, everything just starts collapsing because, you know, you can only get so big. You can only like.
I don't know. I beg the difference. I just go on. Sorry. I have problems.
That was a good one. That was a good one. So, you know, everything that expands and continues expanding eventually collapses. Eventually. So the black holes in this theory are the collapsing agents, and eventually everything in the universe, because black holes will suck in other black holes.
Yes. That's
and
what I'm saying. Yeah.
And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until the whole entire universe is basically a part of this black hole, right? Mm. Imagine how dense it would be with such gravitational force. All of the universe, like every planet, every other black star or black hole, just sucked together into this orb of just massively dense material.
Mm. I always think of that line in the second verse of Genesis. It says the earth is out. So now this is just talking about the earth. Well, I don't know if it meant the universe there, but it talks about it just being without form and void. It's very interesting.
Essentially,
you know,
that like that. Well, you would literally have like, just from the stuff hitting each other, you would have atoms slapping atoms.
Yeah, I mean that. You just don't know what can happen there. I mean, it's
so with that level of just immense density and gravitational force, there's no way a scientist could look at me with a straight face and with absolute surety say, no, an atom will not hit an atom in that scenario.
Yeah, well, I mean, you also think about too. Okay, so you think about the suns we have around the universe and the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one thing that helps me understand space a little bit maybe is that those are actually very small in retrospect to the whole frame of things.
Yeah.
And what if those stars are actually just the sparks of a universe that collided? Those are just what have
well, they actually are.
Yeah.
Well, suns actually are dying. Like the reason they put off such immense heat and light is because they are like dying. And then if they're big enough, as soon as they have their actual death, I forget the exact word for it. They have a word for whenever a star dies. But if it's big enough, it can create a black hole.
Yes.
And so I don't think our sun is big enough. I think our sun is like a class D or something. And
I think if I'm not mistaken, our galaxy is swirling around a black hole, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Like, do I have that wrong? Or
I've heard something like that, but I don't know if that is a like a conspiracy theory level conspiracy, or if that is a scientific.
Well,
theory.
I think they wonder why we're spinning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like it was an idea thrown out, like why are we spinning? And one of the possibilities are we're spinning around a black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense. I mean, because, you know, I think, and black holes are probably in a way just an equalizer of displacement.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It draws everything in because everything's expanding. Yeah. So if everything's expanding, there has to be a form of contraction.
Yeah. So
like,
go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So this has been a thought that's been on my mind a lot, and I just kind of want to introduce people to this thought because I know some people will be watching it, and it's not productive in the sense for Christianity. I think I have theories like of why things are the way they are, but okay, do you understand how like light works, right? In the sense that when we look at space and we're looking far enough into space that we're really looking at the past. Mm-hmm. They teach you guys that in school.
Yeah.
So it always blew my mind and most people aren't familiar with this, where say we're looking at like a lot of these photos that Hubble is bringing in. Well, that's took that light so many. Okay, so every time there's a light year in which something has traveled for us to see, that means a year has gone by
for that light.
Yeah. So when we look at something, and I don't know what the farthest object is out there, but say it's 360 light years away, or 360 million light years away, which we've seen stuff, and if I'm not mistaken, that far away. That means we're looking at something
from
that is
60 million.
Yeah. So that structure is probably way gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, no, there's the possibility that
everything we're looking at is just the past.
Yeah, some of the like stars that we've gotten photos of aren't even there. They're probably already dead and burnt out, but the light being emitted so far, what we're capable of seeing is really just like a long, old and dead star. Like, like you said, 360 million years. Because, and also I don't think, I was talking to this one person, and I was talking about like interstellar travel, because what's his name? Elon Musk, of course, he is trying to spearhead traveling to other planets.
Oh yes.
And I love the idea. Absolutely love the idea. I just don't. There are some people that I've talked to it about that don't understand how far a light year is.
So, like so the Earth is sun to Earth and back. That's all it is. That's how far light year is.
Yeah. And then there's some people that don't understand how fast light travels.
Yeah. It's really slow, actually, in terms of if you're looking at the size of the frame. Again, if you're looking at the frame of the universe,
you're looking at the whole, light travels really slow. Because there are storms, which this also blows my mind. There are storms in a a vacuum, because space basically is a vacuum. The fact that there are
so they tell us. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, a vacuum for us, it sucks away our oxygen. The lack of gravity destroys our body. Mm-hmm. So, but the fact that there are storms out there blows my mind. But because these little gases and these little maybe not even little, it could be huge, asteroids and stuff, are mixed into these storms. And if you've ever looked up a picture of them, they're actually really pretty from the pictures we get, because it's purple and blue.
You're talking about these nebulas and things like that.
Well, the nebulas themselves can actually have these little storms in them, essentially. Where these
what do you call them to look them up? Did you say space
I was just looking at it the other day, talking about it with somebody, because they mentioned it.
Just curious. Space storm. Oh, that's a deviant art photo. That doesn't help me.
So they're disturbances called storms, and the storms in the space. This is from the Space Weather Center.org.
There's a space weather center.
Yeah, that watches. Yeah, because they have disturbances in space that they call storms, and
isn't that just great? The complete unpredictability of space in general, and then it has storms. Just saying. So it says they're caused by gusts of solar wind that strike a magnetosphere, which energizes the protons and electrons trapped in the magnetic fields, which raises the radiation level in space. So these storms are literally just radiation floating in a that's just so not good.
In an abyss, virtually. Yeah. So and it happens actually whenever stars die. Because whenever stars die and they let out their final little burst of energy, it's a lot of solar wind, and that solar wind is what creates them. So it's And I just imagine like this.
Maybe that's why black holes are around, is that they do the cleanup work. Like, I know space is dirty, but it's there's a lot of cleanup work that black
holes are just cleaning, man. They're just trying to like mind their own business and clean, and we're over here talking crap about them, talking about them destroying everything.
They're like, we have no goal to destroy life. We're just doing our job. Bro. They're just cleaning. The little whatever you call the little robot vacuums that get up there. That's what black holes do. They actually never are out to harm anything. They're actually conscious. They're just robo vacuums.
Yeah, they're just cleaning. And they're like, man, those little humans down there talking mad crap. He's like, oh man, I could really get them. Nah.
Just don't scoop them up, Henry.
Leave them alone. Today. Not today.
It's like they're talking shit again, Lewis.
I'm gonna
doing it again. I will get them.
Don't do it, Henry. Don't do it.
No, honestly, I feel like that's not the case. Just, considering they suck everything indiscriminately.
Yeah, for sure. No, they definitely just, highly dense.
Well, I think
essentially.
Well, I think that's why Elon Musk has a very valid point when he says that he wants to make humans a space-faring civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the way I see it. Okay, like, let's say, just on a side note, that everything I believe is wrong, right? Like, as far as like in a apocalyptic sense, like, that I guess the Lord's gonna, everything in the book of Revelation. Let's just say I'm wrong, right? Okay. So, what is the alternative plan?
Yeah,
and to me that is to stop the light of humans from extinguishing.
Mm-hmm.
And because as far as we know, we're the only conscious things that empirically we know of. Like, we can argue for dolphins and octopi. Like they might they might be like on a lower stage of something.
Have you heard the conspiracy theories about octopi and mushrooms coming from outer space?
I've heard parts of them.
Okay, continue what you're saying. I won't interrupt you with that because that's
okay. So, but just real quick, the only reason I want to get back to the octopi and mushrooms.
No, you're good. You're good.
People need that conversation. So my thing is, okay. So say we're all wrong, right? And we don't know when the Lord's coming back. If empirically we can't prove anything like that. So my thing is, okay, in order to make sure that humanity stays sovereign over their playing field, the thing is, once we mastered fire, that was one realm that humans had to make sure that they survived. And I think space, we're lucky enough that space hasn't killed us already.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to pay serious attention to the fact that it wouldn't take but the wrong event in space to knock us completely out. And I feel like that if we put our minds to it, there's a possibility that we could be the type of civilization that could get mastery around space and time, hopefully one day. That way we're not so easily destroyed.
So there is one thing that absolutely, I love that Elon Musk is trying to get us out to space to advance us in technology and advance us as a civilization. I absolutely love it. The one thing I'm absolutely just scared of that is in outer space is dark matter. We have proof that it exists. It does not obey any of the laws of physics.
Well, I mean, you think about it this way, it's just a different type of matter.
Yeah, well, and it's because we can't control it. We can't predict it.
And my thing is we have to get above that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like storms, here on our own planet right now, they're still pretty rough for us. But for the most part, if you're living inland, you have the right protections. If you build a bunker, you can survive a tornado.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And my thing is, I'm not saying so that we can hide out. I'm saying that we need to be able to get above and understand things so that we're not so easily extinguished.
Well, my fear from dark matter, actually. So like the one little part of me that is fearful of dark matter also turns around and says, okay, well, you're fearful of it, so humanity should try to, about the same thing you're saying, figure out how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because if you know how to handle it, you won't be scared of it.
Yeah.
And the only thing is that I'm really fearful about, if we don't know how dark matter interacts with like humans, like what does it do to the human body?
Yeah.
And that is scary because like dark matter itself.
In time, we're bound to find out though.
Oh yeah. I mean, eventually, like we're gonna get out to space. Something's gonna happen where a human comes into contact with dark matter.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see, does it affect us at all? Does it mutate us, or does it just outright kill us?
Yeah. Well, honestly, that's how I plan on getting my superpowers.
Dark matter.
Yeah. Like. That's...
Well, I was planning on going through, just like the X-Men, going through a gust of solar wind, like one of the storms, similar to the X-Men. No, not X-Men. Fantastic Four. Sorry.
See, I was gonna be like Green Lantern, where they just get to control this whole other universe of matter. Actually, there's a really good theory that, okay, so you know how at one point electricity was pretty much like we just didn't really know about it. You know what I mean? It was just, and then it was something that we learned to tap into. We just saw, okay, with electricity, we saw signs here and there, like we saw a spark. We did something that caused a spark, like, clothes rubbing together or your hair standing up. And we didn't have all of the notions of electricity completely formed. And I think dark matter, and there's a great anime, and I don't think they used the term dark matter, but they called it Dimension W. That's the name of the anime, is Dimension W. Whereas they had these like little Tesla coils, right, that powered everything, and they just tapped into this other dimension full of a type of energy. And I'm not saying that antimatter or dark matter is like that, but my thing is that what dark matter is right now, and a lot of these things are just the hints of things that we need to explore. It's like your emotions, man. We were talking about the big five earlier. If you have a strong emotion, that should really tell you to look into it.
Yeah, well, I think the closest on Earth that we've gotten to a dark matter is because dark matter is extremely just similar to the storms that are created by gust of wind, and similar to our stars. I'm pretty sure dark matter is extremely radioactive. So I think the closest thing we're getting to dark matter...
Bigger nukes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean...
Intergalactic nukes.
Intergalactic. The Death Star.
Yes. Well, honestly, that's what we should do. We should hollow out the moon. And that's got to be our first planetary protection device. We hollow out the moon. You know what I'm saying? And then once we hollow it out, we create a weapon enough that and that's the biggest thing I think humanity really needs to develop, is the ability to dissipate matter or send it somewhere else. Because I'm not sure. Well, the laws of physics currently state that we can't create or destroy matter. We really need to either prove that wrong, or at least destroying matter, or we need to be able to send matter either in some quantum way or another. Because here's the thing, if we can't displace things, then we really can't defend ourselves.
Yeah, there is one thing about that. I don't trust the human race with learning how to create or destroy matter.
I know, but somebody's got to do it.
I know. Well, like create kind of like
matter? Sacrifices. Well, I don't know about create matter, but at least destroy it. That's what I said before. At least destroy it.
Well, like create matter has its like sketchiness about it. Of like, if we learn how to create matter, like.
Well, I don't. Like I said, I don't think you can create it or destroy it.
I know. I'm saying if we were to end up proving that wrong, right? And the laws of that law of physics is absolutely just thrown out the window. We learn how to create matter. We would essentially, like, resources wouldn't be an issue. If we if we created a machine that can create matter, and it costs so much, radiation. Let's just stick with radiation, right? so we just slap 2 atoms together or 4 atoms together, or we split them, whatever we do to get that explosion, whether we hit the atoms together at a stupidly high speed or if we split an atom, right? And it creates matter. Resources solved. But if we learn how to destroy matter at that same time,
I don't think you'll ever be able to prove that you can destroy matter. Unless you have a complete mapped out version of the entire universe and multiverse, I don't think you'll ever be able to prove that you can destroy matter. It's kind of like proving that God doesn't exist. It's kind of impossible to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
but you can send, that's why I said, or send it away.
Yeah, if we could turn the moon into a weapon that has a beam that's capable of destroying matter, the easiest way to test that, because we have our galaxy, if we get to that point in technology, we should have our entire galaxy like mapped down to like an atomical level.
We should spell our name in the galaxy. Just as it rotates, it says human. Like I know that's so like Space Jam or Rick and Morty or something like that, but I mean, they would give a label. At least people would have other games would have a label. They'd be like, okay, that's not normal. Something's there.
Yeah, and be like,
Be the galactic neon sign.
Yeah, intergalactic neon sign that says human. And they're like, I wonder how they're doing that. We probably shouldn't go down there and mess with them.
Yeah, we're just blowing holes in our galaxy because we're America. Like,
see, that's the exact reason I'm like, if we figured out how to destroy matter, I would be like scared of the human race, because you have those people who'd be like, you know what? We can and we will, because we're humans. Instead of because we're America, that same kind of pride would be like, because we're humans, and we would just like start wrecking. Yeah.
Blow it up. Yeah.
We literally just start like this planet, and we're like, hey, we can hit that one. That one's within range. And they're like, oh, if there are any like species on it, who cares? We're humans. And just start blowing up other planets. But
I think honestly, okay, what was it? Oh, there was such a good anime. This is one of the reasons I live for space anime. I'm just telling you, any mech anime, space anime, philosophical stuff, I love it. But there was one anime where I think it was a Gundam anime, actually. They ended up using Saturn as a catalyst in a war. They just enough spark or just enough space power, I guess, to shoot at Saturn. No, it's Jupiter. Jupiter's just the giant one without rings. And they used Jupiter and they lit it on fire.
Yeah, because it's a giant gas.
Yes, yeah. and they use that as a weapon. And I'm just saying, like, if it ever comes down to it, Jupiter might have to go. Like, we might have to use Jupiter. Like, if we needed it, it would really mess things up. It would really
It's rotating around the sun already, so it's moving. If we just lit it on fire.
Like, it's this defense mechanism in general. Like, it depends if it would torch us. If it's
that's what you really gotta like.
The residual heat. We don't know how hot it gets. That could be like a catalyst for another sun to start. You never know.
And if we have another sun that close, we're roasted. We're definitely dying.
People say they know how stars are born, but I'm not so sure about that.
Stars are. The closest thing we've gotten to a star is the nuclear bomb. That's why people say, whenever we drop nukes on Hiroshima, we drop the sun. That's the closest we've gotten.
Yeah, well, I think once we get nuclear fusion, not fission, which we already have fission, I think that'll take us a long way. I was actually watching a movie. If you love sci-fi stuff like this,
I do.
It's called 2067. It's on Hulu. It has a lot to do about space, not space. What am I saying? It has a lot to do about time. But in that, you can tell because they already have, if you look at the versions of, say, nuclear fusion reactors, in that movie, everything's powered by that. Like, they don't mention it. They don't even talk about it. I love movies where they do this stuff, but just humanity's already past that point to where we already have that kind of power. And that's how they generate enough power to actually go through time. Because apparently it takes a lot of energy.
You want to talk about generating power? Don't get me on the subject of nuclear energy. I wish.
Let's do it. I'm in.
I wish, bro. People calling for more like green energy sources and better ways to like produce energy, right? Nuclear energy. Let's set up a nuclear power grid, please.
Well, okay, so this is something I've been thinking about our power grid, actually, as you brought that up. And this actually goes back to our authoritarian discussion.
Okay.
Or not.
So, all right, yeah, looping it back around.
Okay, so this is one of I think the benefits of why we need to take certain things more seriously, and maybe why there is a place for certain authoritarian principles, and that our power grid is in shambles. And when I say in shambles, I mean it is so hackable, it is so easily disturbed. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, is when you have a serious vulnerability like that, that creates a serious problem for us, potentially.
Now, are you saying that an
authoritarian view would say mobilize an effort, because I just don't know why the American people aren't convinced, mobilize an effort to say update our whole grid? Like, I know that's very costly, and I'll say it like this: capitalism in and of its on its face doesn't see the need; it sees the bare minimum to make maximal profit. That's right. What capitalism has: good things and bad things. And
that'll get me started on a whole different, because I'm super pro capitalism.
Okay, I am too. Don't misunderstand. But you see where there might be a little bit of a flaw there, like how it.
Right. There are some, in quote, negatives to capitalism, and it's because, to a certain extent, people are going to try to put in what is the minimum I can do to get the maximum profit.
And my thing is I do believe you can't have pure capitalism, and I think
that's where me and you start to like diverge on two different paths, because
so how do you get to a place where the economy just drives us to solve this power issue to where everything's up to date? It's not like we can stop using like Duke Energy, which is what's in our area, and say, hey, I really don't like the way you're taking care of your grid, so I'm going to go shop for somebody else. If we could say that, maybe this would solve it, where there were multiple people entering into the game, break up the monopoly. I'm sorry, I'm talking and thinking.
Oh, you're good.
Maybe that would be the only way I know that we could get it to where the government would have to be involved, because I do believe government does a worse job than anyone and everything.
That's why I'm a pure capitalist. So a lot of people think what America has right now is capitalism, and it's not.
Like every time we say pure capitalism, I need you to wear a monocle.
Oh yes,
pure capitalism, yes.
Well, and the reason being is because the original, back whenever like capitalism was first thought up, it was in the basis of laissez-faire capitalism. Mm-hmm. The government doesn't touch the economy at all. Mm-hmm. It's just the free market and the people inside of it. That's it.
Yeah.
And in every person I've ever heard talk about, Murray Rothbard, for example, he world-class economist.
Yeah.
He was a massive supporter of laissez-faire capitalism. And the reason being is because the lack of the possibility of monopoly. Because laissez-faire capitalism, because the government isn't restricting, you have to get a license for this, there's a fee for that, that stuff like that the government is implementing in the economy doesn't exist. Also, bailouts aren't a thing. So a company isn't going to get saved by the government if they make a bad decision and lose a lot of money for it.
But what about fair business practices?
You mean like overpricing and stuff like that?
No,
Price gouging?
no, I mean like, okay, so when I say fair business practice, I really mean crime prevention. In that, okay, so like, say you come up with a guy, and this has been theorized that this may or may not have happened. I don't know whether it's true. I haven't done any research, but like, say somebody made a motor that could run on water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, what does that do to, say, oil companies? Obviously, creates a serious problem,
Right.
because that may not be what we use forever. Well, you get somebody in a position like that who's, I mean, they don't want to lose their millions and billions of dollars, so they go out and make sure that the guy is either sells his patent or that they kill him. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah.
if he were to sell his patent, that's one thing, right? Because
That'd be totally legal.
He's choosing to sell it, right? The killing thing,
well, to me, it's like it unnecessarily holds the human race back. Monopolies can do that.
Well, I think monopolies are what hold us back, and because law is a fair, the amount of competition available, the amount of competition, like how open it is, it makes someone like you or me be able to step into a market and actually like we are then considered competition even to the biggest of companies inside the market that we enter. Because let's say you go somewhere like up in New England, like Vermont and New Hampshire.
Yeah,
they are really big on local businesses. Neither of those states are big on chain.
Yeah,
like chain corporations.
Yeah.
And so like New Hampshire's voted number 1 for farmers markets.
Is that why you're you think is that kind of maybe why you want to dip out there?
Oh yeah, that's one reason. I like the I like the environment. I'm a big fan of the environment. I don't like it out here. I don't like deserts. I want my trees back and my moisture, right? But I also don't like hot weather. New Hampshire doesn't really get hot weather.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer it more cold and rainy.
How's the economy out there? I'm sure you've done more research.
It's more, well, everywhere is more expensive than the South, but in terms of New England, New Hampshire is actually really cheap compared to the other New England states around it. But mom and pop shops actually do really well up in Vermont and New Hampshire.
See, okay, the only reason I wouldn't want to like really go, like, New England does sound interesting sometimes, but this is going to sound awful because I don't want to alienate anybody, because there's obviously different types of people everywhere. But I do love the culture of friendliness down here.
Yeah. The North has the northern states are known.
I do appreciate the bluntness. Don't misunderstand. Yeah. I wish we had more of that here in some sense.
Yeah. Well, see, my thing is because we were talking about it earlier whenever we were talking about MBTI, and for the listeners who are watching, me and Brandon had a conversation about the differences between our MBTI types and how we interact with certain functions. So like for me, because I am pretty like callous to most things, I'm not a very like emotionally expressive person. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't bother me. Actually, sometimes in the South, whenever people are just like...
So you would say you're like low in neuroticism?
Yeah.
I see. I'm totally different. Okay, so circling back around again. I'm actually like 69%. Like as far as like I experience, and I think this is why I've always like, I'm one of those people who's like always struggled with mental health. I think that's part of the reason. I experience a lot of negative emotion, and it's for me, it's like it's an uphill battle. So thinking about myself and quit thinking about what's going on, in my own life.
The wife is similar. She scores really high on neuroticism. So
they say on average, women actually tend to score higher in neuroticism.
They do. But things like anxiety and stuff like that, Like it's good. Me and her actually like balance each other out because she is extremely like emotionally intelligent, like extremely. Like she'll see someone and she'll just be like, she like knows, she gets like a vibe from them, I guess. And if they're not putting off the right vibe, she's like, no. And like she knows how people are like feeling by just like looking at them, but I look at them and it's like completely oblivious. Now, like I can read a room in like,
if I'm talking to them,
I
can always tell. If I'm not talking to them, depends. I might be so neurotic that I'm just going about my day in my own head.
Well, like I could, if say I was talking to you, and let's say we had a couple. What are a couple other guys you know?
You can use anyone. That's fine.
Well,
nobody matters.
You know what? I won't even put names. I'll just say, let's say me and you were in a group of people, and like I was addressing the group, right? If I'm talking to the group, like I can kind of judge your emotion right then and there about what we are talking about. And like obviously as someone is
so you're saying you're very good at picking up like social cues while talking to multiple people.
If I'm talking to them, yes. But there are times where like I can tell that they are upset, but my brain, like I don't know how to handle it. So like
I feel you.
Like funerals are really awkward for me because I'm sitting there and I'm just like,
it's because he's stoned, he's cold-hearted.
No, I'm not. Dude. I actually no, dude. I care deeply about like, especially for the people close to me. I care really deep. It's just like I don't see the point in. So like, for instance, if my wife came to me with a problem, she was like, "Hey, this happened at work."
I don't see the point of getting emotionally invested when there might be a logical solution.
Yeah, well, see, my first response isn't, oh, come give me a hug, it'll be all right. My initial response is like my brain figures out, okay, that's the problem. This is the solution. This is how you fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so
it depends on their tone of their voice with me. Like it honestly, if somebody is angry or they're very frustrated, my initial response is straight logic. If I can tell that it's got them rattled, like in or anxious or something like that, my first response is I go straight teddy bear mode. That's what I do. I'm like,
see, I don't.
Most people don't see it. If you're a guy, you probably don't see that very often. I don't cut guys a whole lot of slack. I feel like it cripples them.
Well, I'm not too good at the teddy bear function. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at comforting. I can tell you, like
I'm super good at pep talks. Apparently,
really.
Apparently, I'm super good at like pep talks. Like if you're down and out, like all I have to do is look you in your God-given eye and start telling you what it is. Like apparently, because I mean. I can't. When I look at somebody and they really get down on themselves, usually what it is they've started to believe something that might in part be true, but as a whole, it started to overwhelm them. And so my whole, I see that physiological response in them as a whole, and I do everything I can to, because what happens is they sink into like this. Because I do it, I know, because I'm neurotic as like that, where they sink into like this deep dark place, and my goal is to shake them just enough so that the flames and the embers get kindled, and you'd be surprised what happens for people.
Yeah, so for instance, my mother told me that I should go and be a mortician because that kind of stuff just doesn't really faze me.
Yeah. I feel like I'll say it like this. When it comes to say like looking at a dead body or something like that, If I was a mortician, I would have to shut off certain parts, because my response in life is generally, Brandon, I really think you should pay attention and stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, if you're doing something on a daily basis, there's bigger roses to smell. Like, you're going to keep coming across dead bodies. It's not going to benefit me to find out where they came from or how their whole
to
story.
Get emotionally invested. Right.
Yeah. My job is to dress these bad boys up, objectively make them look good.
Right.
You know,
we'll see. And, like, I've tried to like work on that, especially like, you know,
see, I didn't even call them people anymore. You see what I did there? Like,
yeah,
I was like, these bad boys. Like,
well, see, once that's my issue is because, especially, and it happens a lot whenever I'm debating. I've got a little bit more of control on it now, because I interact with more emotional based people now.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, isn't it? It's unfortunate.
I mean,
okay, so like for me, it depends if it's a good thing or not. If like they're an emotional person and I'm actually trying to convince them to the other side rather than find out how I might be wrong. Like, I usually try not to approach people like I'm trying to convince them, but if I am, having an emotional person gives me vectors to reach them.
Right. Well, yeah, because emotions are really easy to sway.
Yeah. Well, if you can tap into how they're feeling about something, you can tap into what examples might make them understand where you're coming from.
Right. And, well, what happens whenever I'm debating especially is I can read their emotions. I know how they're feeling. But I get to a point where, like, I don't see them as another, like, I don't see them, like, I could be upsetting them. It's like, it's okay that you're upsetting them. Keep going. The point is is to prove them wrong and win the debate. And I've had to like get a hold of that because
to me, it's really good if you're trying to figure out something like scientifically, or
whenever you're thinking about something objectively. It helps. But the minute you start, especially because I feel like a lot of people where we're from are a little bit more emotions based than they are like in their like logical based.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, well, I feel this way because I was raised this way. But then me, like, a lot of people hate like debating or discussing something with them, but because I will like tear apart their whole way of thinking. And it's not that I'm doing it.
It's a beautiful thing to do.
It's not that
so fun.
It's not that I'm doing it maliciously though. Like, that's just,
it's the sport.
Sometimes
go ahead.
Sometimes it's not even like the sport. Like, so like a lot of people get mad at me because me and my mother don't always see eye to eye on things. But me and my mother we will like debate about stuff. And people are like, you're so disrespectful. That's your mother. But like, if they were to go ask my mother about it, my mom's like,
it's my kid. This is
she is. Because she knows like that's the way I am. I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but like whenever I take.
See, my mom is like the exact opposite. Like, she raised me to be like this.
Yeah.
And then like when I throw it back, not even like disrespect. It seems disrespectful because you're just talking.
Mm-hmm.
That she feels the disrespect. I'm like, it's not like no.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not being. I'm not trying to be. That's what I run into a lot with.
So I don't debate my mom. She feels threatened by like if she'll learn the idea herself, she's fine with it. But if I talk about ideas that I've learned, she feels very threatened.
Yeah, I
can't
know
stand it when people are like that.
Yeah, well, actually, that's how it started between me and my mom.
Yeah.
But then, so she is a foster parent, and some of the kids that she fosters, they have a therapist. And so my mother have talked to that therapist, and the therapist basically was like, hey, like, there's no reason to be upset at him. That's just like he sees the world very objectively, so it comes off as very harsh and like just cold-hearted. But it's like he's just addressing it the easiest way he knows how, which for me is objectively like the most I've ever used the words I feel is whenever I was in the philosophy class. I feel and I think, but a lot of times they would be like, you know, what they this philosophy class that I took was talking a lot about morality, and morality is a lot of I feel, and I think the most I've ever used that term or that little part of the sentence was with this philosophy class. Because in day-to-day like conversations or debates, I don't say I feel, I say I think, or you know, this is this because.
Well, I'll say I feel in the sense of if I say something like that, that means usually that I haven't done like an intense amount of research, and I still want. It's okay if you challenge me on the fact, if that makes sense. So like, if I feel like, see, I did it again.
Yeah.
If I feel like that, there's still room to process more information, I'll definitely throw out those words because I'm literally feeling out, say, the discussion or feeling out how I feel about something, and articulating it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I've done that where like I've been in a little bit half-baked going into the argument, but then through the argument, I fully adjust my positioning to where I'm like, okay. And now a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, well, you contradicted yourself. And I'll be like, yes, I know. And then I have to explain my thought process because the
cool thing, if you're having a friendly debate is that you might actually you might have honed how you think about something so much better than when you started.
Right. Well, that's actually why whenever you comment on my stuff, I'm like, yes. Like, especially if you are like going a little bit like
going devil's advocate.
Yeah. The minute like you're not agreeing with me, I'm like
well, it's kind of like if I agree with you, conversation ends.
Yeah. Well, like if you agree with me, I'm like, I'll hit the like or the heart. Sometimes
that's the end of it, you know?
Yeah, because sometimes I'll send them the heart. I'm like, love for the homies. But the minute like they disagree, but it's like, as long as they're not throwing like personal attacks or anything like, or just, oh, you're dumb for thinking this way. I hate it when people do that.
Yeah, but my buddy Chris Rogers got me the other day. I was talking to him on the phone, and he needs to get on here. I love Chris. He got me on a quote of myself. I was like, character attacks don't change the facts. Like that's how I feel about that. As far as I'm concerned, if you're bringing up my personal life based on whether something is or isn't true, that doesn't change the actual, you know.
And I think it subtracts from the usefulness of the debate. Like there are things.
It also detracts from your usefulness as a debater. If you're throwing out character attacks, you're literally showing people that you've thrown out all the ammo. Because why would you be firing that ammo?
Yeah. Well, the minute somebody throws a personal attack, I'm like, well, I won. And I just sit back because I'm like, yeah, they threw a personal attack, but that just means they don't have anything else to refute my objective argument. Mm-hmm. And since they don't, they feel that throwing out personal attacks will give them the win. Mm-hmm. But then there are times I actually had a family member who blocked me on Facebook because I objectively addressed. He was a
good old family.
Yeah, he was a huge Trump supporter to the point of like, it doesn't matter what Trump did. Trump was God's blessing on this earth, and absolutely worshiped the guy. And he was saying that,
don't you know he was God's gift to mankind. He was the next Messiah. Don't you know?
Well, like he was talking about guns actually, and I was like, well, he also said this in that video that I showed you last podcast, and the guy was like,
are you talking about the take the gut he would if he could just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, that phraseology, like whether he meant it that way or whether he didn't, if he didn't mean it that way, he needs to specify, but he hasn't specified. So I'm going to take it at face value and say, Trump meant it the way he said it. And he was like, well, you don't know anything about Trump. And I was like, what? Wait, have you met the guy? Do you know him personally? Are you guys like drinking buddies?
That doesn't work for policy people. That's not how we do things. It's called, people are so special.
And he was like, you know what? You're nothing. You don't know anything. You're just young and you don't know anything about the world. Just wait till you get. He was like, just wait till you get my age. And I was like, bro, yes, you're how old? And I'm literally just having a conversation, and you can't be respectful enough to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
And then he blocked me after that because, like, he has friends that jump on there and will be like, yeah, you're right. Like, he had about 15 comments prior to me.
Oh, I can't stand that. Like, you have all these people who absolutely contribute nothing to a conversation, and they give that guy moral support like he's a little girl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then
no disrespect on women, but like,
well,
yeah, he is right. That's how they sound, though.
Yeah. And I'm like, I add to the conversation, right? Just bringing up a point that could easily tear apart his whole ideology.
If he took it serious, yeah.
Yeah. Well, by the way, people hate that. Don't go around tearing down people's ideologies and ways of thinking, Brandon. They will hate you for it. I learned that the hard way. I learned it the hard way.
My thing is, if that's how they are, they really aren't like the people I need anyway. Because my thing is like, okay, so I've gotten in a lot of trouble for this, especially back when I was in ministry, and I'm not anymore. I would always make friends with people who were considered outside like the church camp. You know what I'm saying? Like, like it didn't matter who it was or whatever. They would just be like, how can you associate with somebody like that? And I'm like, if you don't give people, first of all, on a personal note, give people a chance, right? As a human, you know what I'm saying? Then secondly, like, I find people who disagree with me far more interesting because they're the only people with a genuine perspective that really thinks I'm wrong on something.
Right.
I mean, I can make a steel man argument all I want, but somebody like that might be able to make even a better one against make a better argument against mine.
Yeah, like something you've never heard before. It's a perspective you've never thought of because you didn't live or experience or learn what they experienced, lived, or learned. Thus,
I think my childhood best friend got me ruined in that sense, in a good way, because he was always, our whole friendship was us disagreeing. Like, and people in his personal life, they take that so personally.
Right.
They take it. And I mean, I get it that he can sound like a jerk. But like, let's focus on the topic, if that makes sense. Like, and to me, that always stood out. Like, I loved those because those are the conversations I can have, like this one that's going on 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? So we're, I don't know. I can't see why people hate different people so much like that. Not hate is not even the right word.
So I actually, he's about 17. But I was posting some things on one of our mutual friends. Actually, I believe it was Josh Berry.
Maybe, I don't know.
It was something political, and I respectfully, commented. It was respectful. It wasn't a personal attacks. It was just a very objective. Be like, I disagree because of this, or what about this? Because this right here,
something to throw a wrench in the whole. In the things, in the thought process,
Well, it was, and this, it was talking about guns and Trump, because I know Josh was and he might still be. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. But it was in support of Trump and guns. And I was like, a lot of this stuff isn't constitutional. And that kid or guy, because I don't like using age as a justifier as to intelligence level, because I know a lot of younger people that are extremely intelligent, and I know a lot of older people that are not.
Yeah, and I've seen the vice versa, where there's young people who scorn other people with age who have serious wisdom. I've seen it. Wisdom and knowledge comes from all places.
Right. And so I've seen it both ways. So I don't like calling him a kid, because I feel like that insinuates
you feel like that disparages his mental capacity.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying though.
But he's younger. I think he just turned 17, but he came in there heated in the debate. He kind of reminded me of a younger version of myself.
Yeah. So I used to say some dumb stuff.
I loved it. I loved just the heat and the passion. Although he was wrong, I loved the heat and the passion he came at me with. I loved it. It invigorated me, actually. And
the biggest thing with people like that, as long as they get out of, because there's at least a phase for me where I could have just been ingrown, where I didn't continually receive, because new information, if it does anything, it humbles you.
Right. Because you think you know, and then you get proven wrong.
Yeah, that old phrase where the more you think you know, is really the less you know. Yep. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the more I understand, the more I realize I don't.
Right. Oh,
it's a very humbling fact of life. And you're only 22, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'm surprised as far as you've come. A lot of people haven't made it that far. Understanding stuff like that.
I have an obsession with learning things.
Me too. That's where we get along so well.
My wife, like, my buddies would joke around with me, because on a normal basis, like, I don't walk around here with a little mustache and a monocle. I do declare,
but you should. But
my buddies would joke around, and like, I say some dumb things sometimes, like joking around and stuff, right? There's no point in being serious, because life is only so long. Like, no point in being a buzzkill your whole entire life. But I like to have fun, especially in conversation. I love joking around and stuff and being stupid. And my buddy will I have one friend who will sometimes, you can't tell if he's joking or not, and it'll be a backhanded joke, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he says it as a joke, but he actually thinks what he's saying. So
it's really just kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah. So really, it's a slap, but you can't hold him accountable for it, because he's like, "Oh, I'm just joking." So
I'll call people on it. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, that guy said something about me being dumb, and my wife, who is a fervent supporter of mine, was like, actually, he sits around and reads all day. I've heard, and started going off about my level of intelligence, and I was like, babe, stop. One, you're gonna pump my ego, and my head's gonna get too big. So chill.
I know.
But second off, it's okay. If he thinks I'm dumb, it's fine. It's fine, because it really doesn't bother me what people think. But
I think it bothers me a lot more than it should. Honestly.
I think that is one area that low neuroticism, it helps.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I
don't know how not to. I really don't.
I'm a heavy into keeping the peace with people, because I don't like getting really personal in debates. Like, I want to be able to debate with you, even if it becomes heated. Like, even if we're so passionate about the subject to the point where we are saying, no, you were wrong because this and this, and you turn around and be like, no, you're wrong because this and this. like, even if it gets like a little heated, right? I want to be able to like end that debate and then go out to cookout with you and get a freaking milkshake and just be laughing about something stupid.
Those are the kind of people I really enjoy, because like my full range of sense of humor can come out, my thought process on how I think things can really come out. And it makes me like so we'll go back to the 5 personality traits.
We're circling around.
So agreeableness. I think that was something I was a lot higher in at one point in my life that I'm not so high in now. It's like 73%. It's higher than neuroticism. I'm very sensitive to how people think or perceive me, or if somebody suggests something like a movie idea, I'm like, okay, we'll do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it used to be a worse problem than it is now. Part of me just wants to break out of that and just start saying F everybody, but you know.
Yeah. My agreeableness is extremely low. I don't want to show you my big 5 results because you'd be like, wow, guy.
No, that'd be fine.
No. My agreeableness actually it was at like 10%.
Yes.
And it's anybody who knows me would be like, yeah, because like I say things and I'm like, I don't care. Like I just say it and I don't care how people feel about it, which can cause issues. I just I'm like, hey, look, I said what I said. Like how you react to it is your problem, not mine.
And see, I'm getting closer to that. Me and my best friend were having a discussion about that the other day about, okay, how much of what you say is your responsibility versus theirs. And I do think like, okay, if you go back to like a scriptural perspective, you know, you'll get judged for every idle word that you say. Right. But should you be judged? I think that means you should be the type of person that what you say is right. Oh, that's a cute baby.
Yeah. He's trying to get in the lap because I haven't paid attention to him. He's like, Dad, you've been sitting there for almost 3 hours. Come pay attention to me.
This is This is a dog-friendly podcast. I say that, but Bella's been outside the whole time because she is not quiet. She will make noise if she's feeling froggy.
Well, there's the other one.
Oh, I'm dying. That's great.
She's 11 years old, and that is absolutely my baby. She doesn't go to sleep, so she's 11. She sleeps at the foot of our bed, but she won't go lay down and actually go to sleep until she comes up and gives me good night love.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And then whenever
I just exploded, my heart just went.
Yeah, and like on the days that I'm off, right, because I don't have to get up and like my alarm. The days that I work, my alarm goes off and I immediately get up and start doing stuff. But on the days that I'm off, where like I'll wake up and I'll just lay there, she'll come up and like stretch and then lay down beside me and give me good morning love. So she gives me good night and good morning love. That is absolutely my baby, and I've spoiled her. I'll admit it. I've spoiled her to death. I'm a little bit more strict on the German Shepherd because he's a lot bigger and he has.
Well, they require a lot of structure.
They do. Yeah. If you're not authoritarian with them, or bringing it back. If you're not really strict with them, they don't want to listen. They'll think they're the boss. And
that's the way it is with my dog. I don't know what she's mixed with. I feel like she's got hound, pit, and lab in her, and it's just that's just a happy dog combination for I don't give a crap what anybody says. I'm doing what I want. But so she has experienced the wrath of Hildebrandt. She knows what'll happen if she gets away out of line.
I think the most mad I've ever gotten at Alistair, that's the German Shepherd's name, was I was sitting there playing video games and I hear like a noise. And I look over and this guy is chewing on the wall. Like on my door frame.
He's like just the wall.
Like literally like here's the door frame and we have a door going into our kitchen, but then the kitchen immediately has like a turn to it. So it's like
he's chewing on the corner.
Yeah, it's this wide of door frame and then corner. And he was chewing on it. Like had stripped away paint and was chewing on the wood. And he was a little bit younger, so he was in the phase where he wanted to destroy stuff.
Yes.
And that was the most mad I've ever gotten. I was like, you are destroying.
How do you deal with the hair with that guy?
Oh man, vacuum.
I feel you. Do you vacuum him or the furniture?
The furniture. We have a brush that has these little hooked metal prongs.
Yeah.
That actually will take out loose fur, and it's to help with him shedding. Like, because dude, his undercoat, especially, bro, it just sheds and sheds and like. I actually, if I were to come here,
I actually need to get a better brush for Bella. Just for that
there we
reason.
go. I don't know if you can see that hair. I just literally put my hand on his back and pulled away, and that's what hair was left in my hand.
I wonder what made humans decide to start keeping like literal walking shedding blankets in our house, like just these fur balls. I love them. I never thought I'd be a dog person, Layton. I really thought I was going to hate animals the rest of my life. And dogs,
really,
not really hate them, but I thought they
just
were
not
cute.
a big fan.
I thought they were really cute. A lot of responsibility for not a whole lot of return. And now I'm like, dogs are better than people.
Oh yeah,
these are God's creatures.
You know how many things I can look at Alster and be like, look, this is the way the world is, and he doesn't question it.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, superb. Yes.
Dogs are great. There's no question.
Now, my Pomeranian, she will question it. She will question that. She gives mad sass. She will look at you like you.
These dissidents, how dare they?
Yeah, and she starts. She won't question me. She questions my wife. She will give my wife the side eye like it's nobody's business. Like, gives her the most attitude. But then whenever I'm around, she's like, oh, Dad. And then I'm like, yeah, you spoiled little brat.
I feel ya. Okay, so we've talked a good bit this time.
Yeah, we have.
So I won't keep you forever. So like I said, Layton, there's probably a good spot to stop. Dogs are always a good place to stop.
Dogs are a good place to stop.
So I really do appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll get something scheduled out again. So we're going to end part 2.
Yep. Well, see, what's bad is because you and me can sit here and discuss stuff for basically forever. So
I think so. I think we have a very high potential.
Oh, no, my wife just said, Layton, you can discuss things for literal ever.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, thanks."
That's why we need to, get the what do you call it? I guess an expansion pack for life to where we can live forever as old sages.
Right. The DLC.
Yes.
Go get the DLC.
Yeah, we need to get that. That way we can spend at least an eternity talking.
I do have one thing to add though before we end it, is because I noticed.
Is it cash? We need to add cash. I'm just checking.
No.
Go ahead.
I noticed on our first video, we had a couple thumbs up, but we have one thumb down, and whoever the viewer is that gave the thumb down, I honestly would like to know why. Was it something that we said that you disagreed with? And you can. I
thought you didn't care, Layton.
No. See, here's the thing. The reason I care is because it is your YouTube and your viewers. Yeah. I consider you a friend, thus I care.
Oh, but okay. Thank you.
Like I said, I feel deeply for those I'm close to. I have weird ways of showing it.
No, it's fun to paint you as like this monolithic creature that has no feelings. It's fun.
I know.
It's more fun to do that.
I know. He is a robot, no emotion.
No, you're not like the good doctor.
No. But no, my inbox on Facebook is open, and if you're friends with Brandon, and if he is okay with it, if you have a question or a disagree with something we said enough to put.
That would be. I would love to have the feedback and the honest discussion. Honestly,
I would. I would discuss it. And if someone gave a thumbs down because I said something that they're like, that was just way out in left field. Yeah. I don't agree with that. Or I don't like this guy. I don't like the way he thinks.
I definitely don't think it's nothing to worry about, but I do think it would be cool if someone came forward.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not
curious.
Really worried. I'm curious.
It'd be cool if someone came forward to find out kind of,
because I love disagreeing ideas. Exactly. So if someone really like, to an extent, like the viewers hear a little bit of what goes on in my head, right? But we switch topics pretty quickly, because one topic will lead to another topic, and then that'll lead to another one, right? And you and me
I think the next time we do a podcast, I think we should actually talk about, because I would love to hear. So I think you have a more pro-choice view, if you're cool with it. Like,
yeah, that's fine.
Abortion. Like, I would honestly love to hear arguments for that.
To be more structured, I will actually. So if I'm doing like a structured discussion or debate, not saying you and me are debating, we'll be discussing, because there's a difference. But
my thing is, okay, I want to eventually throw some ideas at you that have been more or less concrete for me.
Okay.
In my pro-choice views, I suppose. And see where that leads. There's only really for me, I think I've boiled it down to only a couple things, but that really kind of set me in that direction. Right. But I just kind of want to see what you do with that. It wouldn't be the whole thing, but I tend to I don't necessarily avoid controversial topics, but like there's so many topics that I find really, really interesting. But that one's so political, if that makes sense.
Well, there are some like minor political ones.
I don't try to start off on like some of the heavy hitters.
Right. Well, like I like the tiny, not really discussed political topics that people don't really talk about all the time.
Those are probably more important than people realize.
Yeah. And like, of course, I have a response to people who ask me the heavy hitters, like, abortion, for instance. Like I have the response ready and loaded, but I'll have my notes, so then it's more structured, because I know that I tend to not stay on topic a lot, because my brain jumps from one thing to the other.
Yeah, so it's not going to be. To me, it's not going to be like a debate. It's kind of like,
I know, just a discussion.
Just to see to expose myself more or less than anything. To expose myself to it.
But also, what I was saying a minute ago, the viewer who put the thumbs down, or any viewer, if you have questions, please inbox me, and I will address it next time I'm on Brandon's podcast.
That would be fun.
That would be great. Way.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, my inbox is the same thing. I have no problem. I would love to hear what somebody has to say. Honestly, the more feedback is better. I can't guarantee anybody that I would change anything, but it definitely puts the thought back in my mind. You know what I'm saying? That maybe something I haven't thought about.
My brain doesn't like to be stagnant. If I don't have a constant rotation of mental stimulation, I get really, really bad about like just not doing anything, and I'll just lay around.
It's the most miserable state for me to be in. When I have some knowledge vector in my life where I'm like checking something out or something, I find something interesting. That's one thing that's been really fun about doing the podcast, is it actually gives me time to get back into computers like I once was, because I didn't have a purpose anymore like I used to actually be able to go back into video editing, something to either work on or something to think about, because usually I do a lot of thinking that's actually not very, it's useful for me, it's not useful for everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Not for anybody.
So I think the podcast is useful because it kind of puts some of those thoughts maybe to more use,
right. And also, if I was able to address someone's question, concern, or comment, it actually I found that whenever trying to refute or teach a topic, you actually gain better understanding about it.
Yes, and that's exactly what I meant when I talked about the Steelman argument.
Right. And of course we're cutting time, so I won't drag this on. But I was talking about being on Josh Berry's post, and another person came at me who's rather young with heat, right, with some passion. Yeah. Well, I'll make this story very, very quick, and then we'll cut it. I inboxed him myself because I told him I didn't want to drag on Josh's
I've done that before.
Messages, right? So I took him to DMs, right? And I told him, I said, hey, I was like, I'm all up for the debate, but I want you to, I'm all for consent and agreeing. So if I win this debate, you fully understand and agree that I will take photos of it and I will post it just for my satisfaction.
Yeah, I got you.
And he was like, well, you're not going to win it, but okay, sure.
Oh,
he was.
That's like, no, it's like giving me permission to release the dogs. Like,
Oh, I did, bro. I hit him with one question. He answered, and I hit him with 3 different comments refuting what he said. Yeah. And I was like, well, here's evidence A, here's evidence B, here's evidence C.
It's like playing mind chess.
Yeah. And he, let's just say, mind chess with debating. I'm up there at the grandmaster level, and he was like just starting out. So it was, and because he came at me with such surety that he was going to win that debate, I didn't hold back.
And that's my thing. I can never. I have a very hard time approaching someone with that kind of surety, unless like they've already, just if they've said something that's a personal attack, like okay, so here's where I really start getting mad at people is when they say something, say somebody is pro-choice, because I'm pro-choice, and they loop everyone in that category as some mama hating, something or another. You know what I'm saying? To where, I can't stand that.
You said, wait, did you say you were pro-choice?
Or no, like pro-life is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
I probably said pro-choice, but I meant pro-life.
You did, but I didn't want the viewers to get confused.
It's so like I can't stand when you lump, say, like a position I'm in with everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care for that too much. But go on what you're saying. You unloaded on him.
I'm actually, I'm gonna, because I have the pictures, and I'm actually gonna DM them to you, because at the end, cool. Right at the end, I had beaten him in this argument.
Did he get mad and storm off?
No. He actually now he is actually a libertarian. I turned him into a libertarian. And it's one of my proud moments. Because I
was well on my way before I met you. And then like after, I always appreciated you on my feed because, okay, I have like an echo chamber of people who are Trump supporters, are used to, you know what I mean? I think I pissed a lot of them off. Right. But I appreciate people that break free from whatever the norm is, like on my feed or something like that. As long as they're relatively rational. Like I can't stand people who virtue signal positions. If
it's sense. Irrational, I don't. If there's no rationality to it, I don't.
Well, if the rationality is if you believe a certain way, you're a bad person.
I hate that.
That pisses me off.
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. So, but I'll send it to you. At the end, he ended up asking me. He was like, "Hey, look, I'm still young and I'm still learning things." He was like, "It'd be really embarrassing. I know I agreed to you posting them." He was like, "But I'm asking you, please don't." And I was feeling.
Oh, so I might get some exclusive content.
Yeah, exclusive content, because I actually didn't post it because I was feeling a little gracious that day, and I had already beat him so much, like in the debate, that like I was satisfied.
So you actually got him to acknowledge it. That's great. Like that's.
I did. Yeah, I got him to acknowledge, because once I pointed it out, he was like, "Wow, I didn't know that," and I was like, "I assume so," but.
When it comes to Trump supporters, you usually get me is how they get personal, and then like I'll refer back to their especially if I know them in person, I'll refer back to their normal character and our normal relationship. You know what I mean? And that'll usually get them to stop acting so ideological with it.
Yeah. Well, and so like aggressive. I'm all for a passionate debater, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
But and I told him this, I was like, and he lately has gotten back into church, and he's very, very vocal about it. And I said, okay, fine. and I messaged him in his DMs, and I'll send you this one too. I was challenging some of the key points of Christianity, playing that devil's advocate, right? Mm-hmm. And just to see how he would respond.
See, I've done that with people, and then they think like I totally don't believe what they believe. Like, and I do and I don't, but like, it's so funny to watch.
But it will see because of like discussing things with me so often. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I was like, I respect someone who, if you are going to claim, I am a Christian, this is what I believe. I should be able to challenge you with these things, and you should be able to answer them. Like, know why you believe what you believe, and I will respect you much more as an individual.
Yeah. Well, I also think instead of, I'll see a lot of them get frustrated when they could just say, I don't have the answer yet.
Well, see,
that's respectable.
Yeah. Well, see, during our first one, right, I told him that. I told him after he asked me not to post it, I told him, I was like, I've been debating on these topics and studying these topics for the past couple of years. And I was like, I already knew that I had all the evidence to prove I was right. I was like, but you hit me with such passion that like I couldn't help myself.
Made me want to engage.
Yeah. And I told him it's not bad to have passion. I was like, you just have to make sure.
You have to find your rules of engagement.
Yeah. And I said, if you're going to have such fiery passion where you're coming into that argument being so sure that you are the end all be all, you are correct without a doubt, I was like, you better make sure that you have covered all of your bases. Mm-hmm. I was like, because if you haven't,
take it like a champ if you ain't got it. You know what I'm saying?
So that's what I told him. And I was like, I will admit, like, you didn't get upset. You didn't make personal attacks. Like, I absolutely, like, I kind of shook his worldview of Trump and the Republican Party. And he took it like a champ. He was like, wow, I didn't know that at all. And he told me, he was like, thank you for like.
And see, that for me, that's the point of like discussions like this and podcasts is I really like it. If you can shake my worldview, let it be shaken.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what's true. What do they call it? If it's just mud, it'll fall off the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's kind of how I feel about truth. You'll find out what's true by sifting.
Yeah. You'll find out if a structure is really like
stable by what's the weight you put on it.
Yeah. If you can't put the weight on it without it falling, obviously it wasn't stable. Like,
and I think that's probably a really good place to stop.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you for you and your wife and your dogs for joining the podcast.
Yeah.
Even if she had to do like the paranormal thing, just running
paranormal, across. Just zooming by,
she's like, that's
it's fine. He thought it was funny. He thought you looked like a ghost from Paranormal Activity.
Because I just saw the hair and it just like just scurried behind. But anyhow, like I said, Layton, it was wonderful. I absolutely love this, and I'm sure we'll be doing this again. So thank you again for coming on the podcast. You have a great one, man.
You too, man.
All right. Have a good one.
See you.
Thank you for watching this episode of BrandtCast. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content like this. Thank you again, and keep talking.